Hello you guys, welcome to the finale of my declutter series. I do still have my eyeshadow palette declutter that will be coming at some point in the next couple of weeks here. I have not yet filmed that. I was gonna save it for the end of December, but it might come a little sooner. But today you are getting the finale of my declutter series. I have posted declutter content every single day for the last 7 days. And today I'm going to be doing a mega cut of all of my makeup except for my lips, which I did my lips mega cut yesterday. I am gonna leave out like my single eyeshadow and single eye products from this video just because I think it'll be like a 6 or 7 hour video at that point. So it is going to be all of my other like foundation, primer, spray, powder, bronzer, blush, highlight. All of that is going to be included in today's video. I'm certain this is going to be well over 3 hours. So if you just like to turn on videos while you fall asleep, while you cook, while you clean, that is what I'm giving you today. At the very end of this video, I will give you a full recap on the total number of decluttered products. And there shouldn't be any like really loud noises in this in case you do like to fall asleep to this type of video. So that is what today's going to be. If you're interested, stay tuned. First, you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project planning content, palette themed content, or just hanging out and chit chatting about makeup, that's what we do over on this channel. I hope you'll consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's jump into the mega cut. All right, you guys, kicking off the declutter series with my primers. I am someone who actually really enjoys the primer step. I use primer every single time I do my makeup. For reference, I do have dry skin, and what I typically love in a primer is that it is gripping. I don't necessarily look for hydration in my primer because I can get that from my skincare, although you will see I do have quite a few hydrating primers. And then I do like to have at least one pore filling primer on hand as well. Because I like primers so much, and because I really feel like it takes a lot for me to not feel like I can make a primer work for me, I think this might be one of the harder areas to declutter, but we're just gonna see. We're just gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna start with these two right here just because these two I'm keeping and they're very close to being done. By the time I film my next deck of panning, which I'm currently working on this in that project, the Milk Hydro Grip will be done. Like, this is going to be an empty before the end of the year, so obviously gonna stay and finish off that last little bit. And then I am certain I can also finish my e.l.f. Power Grip by the end of the year. So that'll be 2 already knocked out of the way, but obviously I'm going to keep both of those. I am also going to keep both of my Bobbi Brown enriched face bases. I bought these in a dual pack last year. It was like a value set. I do like this. It is a really nice hydrating product. And in fact, I usually keep this in my bathroom with like the rest of my skincare. And sometimes in the morning, I will finish this off almost as my hydrator, my moisturizer. And then sometimes I will still go in with a gripping primer over top. But I do really like the Bobbi Brown face base. So I'm gonna keep those. Let's see, I know I'm gonna keep my Tarte Timeless Smoothing Primer. This is by far my favorite pore filling primer of all time. I just have the mini because you honestly need the smallest amount of this product to, like, it just goes the longest way. This is going to be my forever buy when it comes to a pore filling primer. It's just the best in my opinion. It's my favorite. The only other pore filling primer I currently have is the Peace Out Instant Pore Perfector. This is something I do want to keep and try and pan next year. I think I can work my way through this one. It's not a favorite. My sister actually ended up passing this along to me. It's not something I would buy again once I finish it, but I don't dislike it enough that, like, I just want to use it up. I just want to use that one up. So we're gonna work on that one. Let's talk about this one next. This is my Verse Mood Lighting Glow Drops. I included this in the primer category because I feel like this is a product I use kind of as a glowy primer, but this is getting quite old in my collection and I honestly feel like this one is starting to smell off. So I am gonna pass this one along, and by pass along, I mean I'm going to pass this into the trash because I don't think this should be going on anyone's face. So I'm gonna declutter that. My Glossier Future Dew I'm also going to keep. I'm currently working on this in my Rolling Project 10 pan. This won't be an empty by the end of the year, but I do have confidence I could finish this next year. It is a really beautiful glowy product. I like to mix it with my foundation sometimes, but it's not something I would repurchase when I buy this. I've gone through a full jar of this one that I purchased myself, and then Glossier actually did send this one to me. It's not a bad product. I just prefer, what do I prefer? I almost prefer something that's almost like a gel-like moisturizer in terms of a glow for the face. I don't know, there's something about this that I find a little bit distracting on the skin, but not in a way that I feel like I can't get use out of it and use it up. So keeping that. I'm also gonna keep my Tula Filter Primer. I absolutely love this primer, especially when I am self-tanning and I want my face to match my neck. This is a really awesome primer for that. This is almost like I feel like almost like a tinted moisturizer. There are different shades in this. I think this is my third bottle of this that I will go through at some point. I just love this on days that I'm not necessarily wearing foundation, but I want to add a bit of a filter to the face. It's a beautiful product. I really like this. It has a bit of a tack to it, but I really feel like it's more just blurring and moisturizing. And admittedly, I don't really reach for this on days that I'm going over top with makeup. I almost utilize this as a tinted moisturizer. Still love this. This is something that I would absolutely buy again when I finish this, because I do find that to be quite a useful product to have in my collection. Okay, I have these two from Bare Minerals. I have the Primetime Redness Reducing as well as the Hydrate and Glow. They sent both of these to me. I think I am going to be decluttering the Redness Reducing Primer. I just really don't have a need for this. I'm not looking for my primer to be redness reducing. And I thought about keeping this because it's a fine enough product, but I feel like I would rather reach for just about any other primer in my collection over this one, and therefore, like, or I'd rather like reach for a gripping primer, even if that meant I had to repurchase a gripping primer. Like someone else can get use out of that. I'm gonna pass that one along. I will keep my Hydrate and Glow though. Sometimes I do like to have a hydrating primer, and I think this one has a really beautiful sheer glow to it. So I would like to keep that one. I am also going to keep my What's Up Beauty Positivity Lightweight Hydrating Face Primer. This is a really nice hydrating face primer, but I do feel like it has more of a tack to it than your everyday primer. Like, it doesn't claim to be a gripping primer, and it's not as gripping as like the e.l.f. gripping primer is, but I do feel like this has a nice tack to it and does help prolong the wear of my makeup. It's something I really like to reach for in the spring and summertime, so this is going to stay. I am also going to keep my Merit Great Skin Instant Glow Serum Primer. I have gone through a full bottle of this. They did send this one to me. They did send the one that I went through as well. This I love, but this is not really something I use as a primer. I always say I kind of use this as like a drink of water for my face. I've not been great about reaching for this one this year, but I should just stick this on my desk where I get ready, because I like to, because I do my eye makeup first, I usually like to pat this into my skin and almost just like, again, give my skin a drink of water while I do my eye makeup. It's really nice and hydrating, gives a beautiful skin-like glow. It's not something that like is gonna last all day as a glow, but I think it's a beautiful, beautiful product. That is staying. I have the e.l.f. Holy Hydration Thirst Burst Drops. I bought these earlier this year. I was really curious how similar these were to the Watermelon Niacinamide Drops from Glow Recipe. And while I do like this, I feel like I have so many other products that are kind of similar to this, or I have other moisturizers in my collection I'd rather reach for. This is not something I utilize as a primer. I almost just utilize this as a moisturizer. And I know my daughter would love this, so I'd rather just pass this one along to her and let her get use out of that. And then I'm absolutely keeping my e.l.f. Jelly Pop Dew Primer. I absolutely love this. One of my favorite primers of all time. Will be keeping. So that means we didn't do great, but of all of the primers, we are keeping 12, decluttering 3. So we did not do great in this category, but I will also say of the 12 that we are keeping, I think there'll be 2 more empties before the end of the year. So hopefully we'll at least end the year with just 10 primers in my collection. Sorry to not start out with a bang, but like I said, it's really hard for me to declutter primers because I feel like I can generally make them work for me. So that's it for my primer declutter. Let's move on to foundation, which I think is gonna be a little bit more exciting. Wowza. I didn't realize my foundation collection was this out of control. Didn't realize it. We got some work to do here. We definitely have some work to do here. I'm like, should I just keep it like chaotic and cluttered like this as we go through? Or should I try and make sense out of it? I might just like keep it this way. Honestly, if that's distracting and annoying, I really apologize, but the thought of like trying to like get this in frame and like scooch everything together, it's not appealing. So where to begin? I'm gonna start with a couple things that I know I'm for sure gonna keep. Those being the 2 Supergoop Protectant SPF, Daily SPF. Do these have, where's the expiration on these? Oh, this one expires November of this year, so as I'm filming this, and then this one expires January of 2026. So I won't be able to rely on these for the SPF. So maybe my goal then next year is going to be to try and work my way through both of these. I think these are beautiful tinted SPFs. Like I actually feel like they provide more coverage than you'd think, and I feel like they have good wear time on it. I honestly feel like I can get away with a full day of like work wear with these. I brought these with me to a work convention in Vegas. They lasted all day and I became truly obsessed with it. That's why I went and bought this one. I'm gonna focus on this one this winter. Like I feel like I could just have this as kind of like my everyday work product for a little bit, and then obviously focus on this one next summer. I would definitely buy these again. I love that they have SPF 50, and these are favorites, so that's gonna stay. Then I can kind of go to, let's go to the Huda Easy Blur. I bought this last year around this time during this 4 VIE sale. I feel like I was hearing a lot of good things, and this just does not look good on my skin. I think it makes my skin look older than it is. It's just not a flattering product, so I am going to declutter the Easy Blur. Should I try and do all of my like skin tints right now since we're like on a skin tint kick? Let's see, I have some of these other products. The Milk Hydra Grip, I was really impressed with this year. I was a little bit nervous to try this product out, but this has amazing wear time to it as well. It's incredible, and it has this really beautiful hydrated kind of glow to the skin. I feel like this is another one that really does last me a full workday, which kind of impressed / shocked me. So I'm definitely gonna be keeping this. And then I also did really love the Vive Skin Nova Complexion Balm. Mine is a little bit too light for me, although it does match me pretty well right now, although it's a little bit more warm than I would typically go for. I'm definitely gonna keep this. I feel like I'm already like halfway through this product. This is something I definitely would buy in my summer shade next summer. I think this is a beautiful summer product because it is nice and lightweight, still looks like your skin, gives a beautiful glow, and I absolutely love this. I am, however, going to declutter my ABH skin balm, like this balm, whatever. This looks so bad on the skin. It provides literally no coverage. It's completely sheer, but what you do get from this is like the pigment from this product, like clings to dry patches, so it like enhances dry texture, but then like you also get no coverage. I absolutely despise this product. So I'm gonna be decluttering that. Do I have any other? I have my tinted hydrator, although I do feel like this offers more coverage than your typical like tinted product. This is from Wet n Wild. This is definitely getting older in my collection, but I did pull this out at the beginning of the summer because I wanted to kind of put this on the chopping block and decide if it was something that I was going to keep at the end of this year. And I've really enjoyed using this. It does smell like paint or paint thinner, so it doesn't smell the best. I would like to finish this up next year, and if it's not an empty by next year, I feel like I should just declutter it because it is getting older. But I like this enough that I really do want to keep it and try and work my way through that. This is obviously not a tinted product. Tinted Hydrate is a tinted product. It's a white mixer. I don't like this at all. I got this to lighten some of my darker foundations, and I just do not like the way that this mixes with things. I'd rather put like a glowy product like the Glow, oh my gosh, like the Glossier Future Dew, I'd rather mix in as like a mix. I don't like this. So I'm gonna declutter the LA Girl white foundation mixer. Okay, I have all of these Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue products. They did send all of these to me. I used to love the Bare Minerals Complexion Tinted Moisturizer. I've gone through several of these, like at least 3 or 4 in the past. I was using them and I don't not like these, but I just would so much rather reach for the Supergoop, which has SPF 50 as opposed to this having 30. I do also still wear an SPF. I also would just rather reach for the Milk Hydra Grip. So it doesn't make sense for me to keep these when I could pass these along to someone else who would get use and more use and enjoyment out of these. I'm gonna declutter both of those. And then the Natural Matte looked absolutely terrible on me. This looked so bad. One of the like complexion products that's looked the worst on me in a really long time. I think just I don't like matte products on my skin. So I'm definitely going to be decluttering that. Then I have so many foundations. I'm keeping my Oma by Sharon C. I am hoping, this is like the one product, I mean, I really would have liked to finish Dior Forever Skin Glow. If I were to self-tan, I maybe could have this as an empty. I love my Dior foundations, you guys know, so obviously keeping that. Maybe I could empty that by the end of the year. I am hoping to empty out my Oma by Sharon C. So I'm keeping this. I'm getting close to being done with that one. So hopefully it'll be one less foundation to count in my inventory at the end of the year, but I am gonna keep this for the sake of this declutter. My Natasha Denona and my Laura Mercier. These are new foundations to my collection this year. Laura Mercier, I've gone through a full bottle. I really love the Real Flawless foundation from Laura Mercier. The littlest bit of this goes the longest way, but still provides beautiful coverage and still looks like your skin. I really love this foundation, so definitely keeping that. The Natasha Denona I've also been really impressed with. This is the High Glam foundation. It says it's hydrating and blurring, and I would agree with that. This gives a really beautiful kind of natural radiant finish to the skin. I do like something a little bit glowier because I do have more dry skin. I like a glow, and I have been wanting to reach for this. Like, I finished testing this out and I have continued to want to reach for this one from Natasha Denona. So definitely keeping that. My Guerlain Healthy Glow is one of my favorite foundations in my entire collection. Getting older in my collection, I need to just use this and then I can buy it again. But I need to give myself the excuse that it's okay to use this, even if it's just to work. It doesn't have to be a special event. I can wear this, and I should use it and use it up before it truly goes bad because it was expensive, and I love this foundation. So that's gonna stay. I will also keep my Dior Forever Hydra Nude. I purchased this at the beginning of the year. Really enjoy this like I do all of my Dior foundations. This gives beautiful coverage, but still a natural skin-like finish and just like glow to the skin. Love this. All right, the Lancome Tenti Dole is not my favorite foundation, I will say, but I was enjoying this summer, especially when I wanted my makeup to last all day. I don't know if you can see with all the windowing. I feel like with just a little bit of focus, this is definitely something I could easily finish next year. So I'm gonna hang on to this one for the time being. The True Match from L'Oreal, I am going to pass along. I did really enjoy this at one point, but I feel like I'm just a little bit bougie when it comes to my foundation. L'Oreal, I do think, makes the best drugstore foundation in my opinion, at least from the ones that I've tried. But I just don't love this one like I used to, so I'm ready to pass that one along. The Too Faced Born This Way Soft Matte Oil Control Foundation. I do like this. I just feel like I feel like overwhelmed by my foundation collection, which is actually crazy because I was feeling like I didn't have enough foundations. I am going to keep the Too Faced Born This Way Soft Matte. This is good for work. It's not my favorite. I don't know if they discontinued this or not. It's not something I would purchase again. I really enjoyed this when I first started using it, but I feel like I'm getting pickier and pickier as I have been aging, but I think I can work my way through finishing this. I'd rather not declutter. I do have the Lawless Forget the Filler foundation. This is definitely like my very darkest summer shade. I did not get the correct shade, so this didn't get as much use as I would have liked this year, but I love this. I think it's so beautiful. It is pretty full coverage, but it doesn't feel heavy on the skin, and it gives like this beautiful glowy finish to the skin, which I personally love. I actually would consider purchasing this in a lighter shade, but I would like to whittle my way through some of my other foundations before I do that. So maybe not next year, but perhaps the year after, unless I find another foundation I like better. Hopefully I can get some use out of this next summer and get closer to finishing that, but I'm gonna keep that. The Givenchy Prism Libre foundation. Some days I love this, some days I hate this, but I'm not ready to give up on this, so I am going to be keeping this one. There's days that I feel like my skin looks flawless when I wear this, and then there's other days that I just feel like my skin looks like dry and aged. So maybe it has to do with my skin prep. I don't know. I just, so many people love this one. I'm not ready to give up on it. So I'm gonna keep that. All right, this one I'm really torn on, you guys. It's the Haus Labs Triclone Skin Tech Foundation. I don't Love this one. I thought I did, but I feel like I was like falling into the hype. I don't think this looks good on my skin. I feel like this settles into my lines, even when I set with a powder. So the only time I reach for this is like when I'm filming. But even then, I'm like, I'll film with this on and I'm like, oh, I just don't love the way my skin looks. And I feel like I hang on to it because I'm like, everyone else loves it, so I should too. But I think I'm gonna pass along the House Labs. I've used about half of it, so my little like Panner's heart like just wants to finish it. I have so many other foundations I'm keeping, like I may as well reach for what I like. I'm gonna pass that one along. My Clinique Even Better is getting old. It's my summer shade. It's a beautiful product though. I'd like to try and finish this next summer. If I don't, I really should get rid of this by the end of the year. This is another one, if I were to work my way through some of my other foundations and not buy a bunch more foundations, I do love to test and try foundations, I would buy this again. Again, this has beautiful coverage, but it is so serum-like and lightweight on the skin. It's so beautiful. It has kind of that skin-like glow that I really crave in a foundation. So I highly recommend that one. This from It Cosmetics, the CC Nude Glow, I'm ready to let go of. This just isn't a favorite. I have so many others in my collection that I prefer over this one. It says medium coverage skin tint. I feel like this is like full coverage. Not a great shade match for me, and I'm ready to be done with this one. I'm also ready to be done with the About Face. I liked this when I first started using it. I do not like the way that this looks on my skin anymore. It just like, it is not flattering. That's just that when it comes down to it, it's just not flattering on my skin. So I am gonna pass that one along. Then I have the REM Beauty, the Sweetener Foundation. I actually really do like this. It is a little bit thicker and heavier, and it definitely, like, you can tell you're wearing makeup with this, but it's still a beautiful foundation, and I love this one for work because it truly does last all day. So I will be hanging on to that, and then I am also going to hang on to my ABH Impeccable whatever, like matte whatever this is. I feel like I'm about halfway through this. Again, not my favorite. I've been wearing this a lot to work though to get use out of it. I've also been wearing this a lot on filming days. Like, I much prefer this over this. And I think I could easily finish this next year. I wouldn't repurchase this one. I like something a little glowier. That's just what it really comes down to. I really enjoyed this when I first started using it, but the more I've used it, the more I'm like, it's just not my favorite, but I've committed to this one. I'm gonna use this one up. So that being said, we are keeping 19 foundations. That's a lot, but I'm hoping to finish this one by the end of the year, and maybe the Dior. So hopefully our inventory will be a little bit less. And there's a lot of these that are like kind of halfway done. So I also just like, I like options in the foundation category. Foundation is one of the categories I really do enjoy testing and trying. So it is what it is. It's fine. We've got 19. We're decluttering 10. So I feel good about getting rid of 10, you know? And ultimately that actually means we are getting rid of 34.4. I know we can't necessarily round up, but I am gonna round up. I'm gonna say we're decluttering 35% of my foundation collection, which, to be over 30% in foundation, which I love to test and try, I'm honestly happy about that. I am happy about that. I'm happy that we're decluttering double digits. I'm happy these foundations can find a new home. But this is my declutter for my foundations. Let's move on to my concealers. Before we move on to concealers, I am happy to report that all of my foundations, except for the Oma Beauty one, which is in my panning container, all still fit into this organizer. So that makes me happy. Okay, on to concealers. All right, moving on to the concealer portion of today's video. I have a feeling this is gonna go pretty quickly. I have 10 total concealers slash color correctors here. I have 8 concealers and then 2 color correctors. I am going to be keeping both of my color correctors. I have the Bobbi Brown color correcting stick in light medium bisque. I like this one probably a little bit more than the NYX Fix Stick, simply for shade purposes. I do like the NYX, it's just extremely brightening, and sometimes it's almost a little bit too brightening. Whereas the Bobbi Brown just really does a nice job of canceling out like my dark circles underneath my eyes without drawing attention to my under eyes necessarily. Sometimes I do like to mix these two together. Regardless, both my color correctors are gonna stay. And then for my concealers, I don't actually feel like I have too many right now. There are 2 that I can see myself decluttering, but the rest are gonna stay. So I will keep my Natasha Denona concealer. I have the shade N1. This is one of my lighter concealers in my collection. I actually ended up repurchasing this. I had an even lighter shade and it just did not look flattering underneath the eyes, but I do really enjoy this concealer. A little bit goes a really long way. This is something I could see myself repurchasing when I finish this one. I do enjoy this. Then I have my Givenchy Prism Libre Skin Caring Concealer. I did not love this one when I first purchased it, but then I was using it very consistently for a while there. And what I love about this one is it's not the most full coverage underneath the eyes, but for day to day, this really is beautiful. It really does kind of have that like skincare, skin loving type of finish. It's a little bit glowier underneath the eyes, which I prefer. Not super full coverage, but very like thin and serum like, doesn't look heavy. I do actually really enjoy this. This is something I could potentially see myself decluttering when I finish this as well. Maybe not right away. I feel like this is something I wouldn't go out and immediately repurchase, and then I would end up missing this. So I do like that one. I'm going to keep it. I also really enjoy my Vive Modern Radiance Concealer. This one's a little bit too dark for me right now, but I was wearing this at the beginning of the summer when I definitely had more of a tan. It is a little bit more of like a thicker formula, but it's still very creamy, and it does give that beautiful kind of radiance underneath the eyes that I personally prefer. I do feel like this has a good medium to full coverage. I really enjoy that. The Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Concealer. I don't love this one as much as I feel like so many other people did. However, I don't dislike this one, so I'm going to use it up because I did spend a decent amount of money on this. I was working on panning this for a good chunk of time this year. I feel like right now I'm about halfway through with this. I am moving on to my NYX Bear With Me concealer, trying to finish this just because maybe I could actually finish this before the end of the year, and then I will refocus on this next year, and I think I'll have no problem finishing this up next year. It wouldn't be a concealer I personally would repurchase though. Then we have my NYX Bear With Me concealer. I am thinking maybe I could finish this before the end of the year. It's gonna be really, really close. It's gonna be really close. I do really enjoy this. I find this to be quite similar to like the Tower 28, even a little bit more coverage than the Tower 28. Also very similar to the Kosas. I love the Kosas concealer, but the 2 that I have gone through, my packaging has broken and it's quite annoying. It is one that I am possibly considering giving a 3rd try to and buying it just one last time. I like the NYX one as well. I actually really, really like the NYX one. My only complaint with the NYX is I don't personally love the pump applicator, because even if I try and do like less than half a pump with this, I feel like I still end up with too much. I just prefer a doe foot applicator when it comes to a concealer. That's my only gripe with this. Other than that, I think it does give that kind of beautiful, healthy skin-like finish underneath the eyes. Not super heavy. It is very thin and serum-like, but it does still provide a good amount of coverage. So this is something I definitely do see myself potentially purchasing again. I'd like to get through, like, for sure my Giorgio Armani and maybe one other concealer before repurchasing this. Concealer is one of those things I'm picky when it comes to my concealer, but I don't feel the need to have like a ton of concealers in my collection. So I would like to like maybe do like a 2 out, 1 in sort of situation for a bit. But anyway, those are all staying. I am also going to keep my Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Radiant Concealer. I went through a deluxe size sample of this, enjoyed it so much that I ended up buying a full size. This is another one that's a little bit more like thick and moussey. It does provide more medium full coverage underneath the eyes. This is something I really enjoy going to if I have like an event, or if I'm going out, or if I just want my makeup to last all day. I could see myself purchasing this one again as well. I feel like between these 2, I would repurchase one of these. My heart tells me like the Natasha Denona one is a little bit thinner, but I feel like for some reason I'm just more drawn to the Charlotte Tilbury. But I definitely feel like if I finish both these up, I wouldn't necessarily need both in my collection, just because both provide pretty full coverage underneath the eyes. So between these 2, I would definitely buy one of them again, and it probably would be the Charlotte Tilbury. I think next year, like, I don't know if you can see, but I do have some good windowing going on this one as well. I could see myself potentially finishing this next year as well, but kind of 2 out, 1 in sort of situation. I'd like to maybe finish both of these and then buy this again. we'll see what happens. And then these two are going to be my declutters. This is the Bare Minerals Bare Pro 16-hour wear all over skin perfecting matte concealer. Wow, longest name ever. Bare Minerals did send these to me. They, I think, sent me a third shade as well, but that one was too dark for me. I have the shades Fair 150 Cool and then Fair 100 Cool. This just looks way too dry underneath my eyes. I've kind of been saying like, oh, I really enjoy when it has a bit of a radiance or a healthy glow underneath the eyes. This is definitely more mattifying, and that is just not what I think looks flattering on me. I've tried to make these work for me. I feel like I had decided I wanted to declutter and then I pulled them back out. And I wouldn't say it's like the worst concealer I've ever tried. It's just not what I prefer in a finish, and I'd so much rather reach for any of the other ones that I'm keeping. So I'm fine with passing these along. I have a couple of friends that definitely love matte concealer that I know I can pass these along to, and I'd rather these go to a home where someone else is gonna love them more than me. So from my concealers, from the 8 concealers I have, I'm going to keep 6, declutter 2. I am really hoping maybe I can finish this one before the end of the year and then end with 5 concealers for my inventory. But for the sake of decluttering, keeping 6, decluttering 2, and then obviously keeping the 2 color correctors. All right, you guys, here we sit for powder. My powder collection has gotten out of freaking control. I don't know what happened. I've definitely been sent a lot of powders. I know that like a lot of brands have been reformulating, I believe taking talc out. I could be very wrong about that. And also for some reason, I feel like I've been on this like powder journey. Like I feel like I've just wanted to try powders this year, even though it's like not the most exciting makeup product. My powders used to all fit into like 2 of these, like literally like these 2 spots, and now we are absolutely overflowing. So I am hoping to make a bit of a dent in my powders. I also think I'm gonna struggle a little bit. I'm gonna split it up, pressed and loose, and I think maybe we'll start with loose. I actually prefer a pressed powder. Loose powders are something that I typically just use to set underneath my eyes. I just counted and I have 20 total powders between pressed and loose. That is actually insane to me. All right, I have 9 loose powders. And I feel like I'm really actually gonna struggle with my loose powders. I'm gonna start with my Makeup by Mario powders because I know I'm absolutely not decluttering these. I purchased the shade Fair last year, Fair Pink. I absolutely love this underneath the eyes. It blurs, but it's not too heavy. It's just perfect for my dry skin. I just love this powder. And so because this is like the lightest shade, this summer, spring summer, I was definitely craving something a little bit deeper for underneath the eyes because this was just too light, but I still wanted this powder. So then I ended up buying the shade 3 Neutral Peach, but I was also on like a color correcting journey this year, and some people were saying how yellow may be something that I prefer more underneath my eyes. So I ended up also picking up the shade 2 Neutral Light. So I have shades 1, 2, and 3 in the Makeup by Mario powder. I have no regrets. I love this powder, and so I'm keeping all 3 of these. I'm also definitely keeping my Nakia Joy powder. This is the Velvet Finishing powder, and this is, I thought this was in a shade, maybe not. I was gonna say vanilla just because it has this vanilla scent to it. I bought this last Black Friday and I really enjoy this powder as well. I still have quite a bit of this, probably like well over half of this. I absolutely would purchase this powder again. However, I think it'll take me at least another year to go through this. It is a little bit heavier underneath the eyes. It's just a little bit more full coverage. So I definitely reach for the Makeup by Mario more on a day-to-day basis, but I still think this is a beautiful powder, especially if I'm really wanting to lock my makeup in, or if I have like some sort of event, or if I'm going out and or if I want my makeup to just last all day. This is a beautiful powder. The Huda Beauty powder. I think I also bought this last year. This is the Cherry Blossom Cake. I think they've actually reformulated since I had this one, and I am not even halfway through this one. This one is way too heavy underneath the eyes. I definitely do not prefer this one. So this is one that I actually am going to be decluttering. I actually saw that Huda, I think, has like a powder duo now where it's like 2 shades mixed in one. I almost bought that and I was like, girl, what are you thinking? You don't like this powder. It's too heavy underneath your eyes. Like, we're not buying that. So I'm gonna declutter my Huda. This e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder, I feel like I've decluttered in the past and then maybe recluttered, or maybe like between my daughter and I just like exchanging things. This somehow ended up back in my collection, but I am going to either declutter this for the first time or declutter it again because I just, again, prefer my Makeup by Mario or even my Nakia Joy, and so I would rather be reaching for those over the e.l.f. So I can pass the e.l.f. along. The Kosas powder, the Cloud Set Translucent Powder in Buttery. This is where I'm just like, why have I wanted to try all the powders this year? I think it was Kelly Gooch I saw review this, and just the way she was describing it made it seem like a powder I would really enjoy. I actually kind of want to try setting all over my face with this powder. I do have this shade Translucent Buttery. I didn't necessarily want the pink shade. I wanted this shade. However, this is not something I feel like is going to look super flattering on me right now. Hopefully it will next spring, summer when I have a little bit more of a tan, or I am self tanning. As of this moment, I am going to keep this powder. It is beautiful. It's definitely a lighter powder. You get so much powder in this. So I'm going to keep the Kosas for now. Then I have this one from Flower Nose. This is the Swan Ballet series, the Music Box Loose Setting Powder. This is beautiful packaging. It is a pink powder. I actually cut a hole in mine because I was like really struggling to get this powder out. It is a pink powder and it's just not my preferred powder. This is something, I think it's such a beautiful little container. I'm very pleased and happy to pass this along to my daughter. Not that she like plays with powder that much, but I think she would really enjoy this. I'm not getting use out of it. I have plenty of other powders, so I'm gonna pass along this one from Flower Nose. And that just brings me to the Bare Minerals Original Foundation, which I count in my powders just because I don't typically wear like a loose foundation. I have mine in the shade Fairly Light 3. This, I don't know about this. I used it a little bit this summer and then I like stopped wearing makeup and I haven't worn this in a bit. I feel like it's such a like holy grail product. I feel like I don't necessarily want to declutter it. I just don't know if I'm gonna get a ton of use out of it. But I feel like if I declutter it now, I feel like I'd be decluttering just to declutter when I do kind of want to get more use out of this. Especially, I do sometimes like using the Bare Minerals powder foundations over like a skin tint if I'm wanting to add a little bit of extra coverage. So I am gonna keep this one from Bare Minerals. So that means in the loose powder category, we're decluttering 3 and we are keeping 6, which is great because loose powder is my least used of the powders. All right, then that brings me to my pressed powders. So I have 11 pressed powders, 5 of them being the Bare Minerals, either Bare Pro or Original pressed foundation, or yeah, pressed foundation. Okay, let's start with the easiest one, my Kosas Cloud Set. I literally just bought this today. I'm filming this on October 31st. I just repurchased this during this Sephora VIB sale because I finished my other Kosas Cloud Set. I've gone through 2 full sizes of this. This is my favorite pressed powder. I think it's so beautiful all over the face. It doesn't like mattify me too much. It just blurs the skin, yet it's still light enough that it looks like my skin, and I just love this powder. It is like a forever favorite of mine. So obviously I just bought this today, so I'm keeping that. And then another pressed powder I've really been enjoying using to set my face lately is the What's Up Beauty Wind Dancer pressed powder. I've been using this in place of the Kosas as I've been waiting for the sale to repurchase the Kosas. I really like the shade Light. It's working really well for me, especially again because I haven't been self-tanning. This is another powder that's definitely a lot lighter on the skin. I do have dry skin, so I prefer a lighter powder. I don't like matte skin, so I like something that I feel like my skin can kind of still breathe through it. I feel like I still have this like natural healthy glow to the skin, and I feel like I do get that with the What's Up Beauty powder. I am gonna keep the shade Light, but I think I will declutter the shade Medium. I feel like even when I do have a tan, I feel like I just don't feel like I don't know. I just don't feel like the shade medium is going to be the best shade for me, even with a tan. So I'd rather pass this along to a friend that has a little bit of a deeper complexion that could get use out of this. Again, I have really been enjoying the shade light though, so I'm gonna keep this one. Then I know I'm gonna be decluttering my Laura Mercier Translucent Real Flawless Luminous Perfecting Powder. I bought this earlier this year, and this is definitely going in my worst products of 2025. This didn't release this year, I don't believe. I thought this was gonna be beautiful. I swatched this in store at Ulta, and I thought it was going to be the most beautiful luminous finishing powder, and I just feel like this makes my skin look like so dry and just not good at all. It is not a flattering powder. I feel like I've tried to make this work for way too long, and I am just ready to let that one go. But speaking of finishing powders, I am going to keep the Say Slip Tint Undetectable Baked Setting Powder. For a while, I was trying to use this in place of the Kosas as well and use this as an all-over kind of face setting powder, but I was just finding that it looked heavy and almost dry on my skin. Although it does have this light luminosity to it, it was the most bizarre thing ever to me. Then I heard Kelly Gooch talking about this powder, and she was saying she didn't like this powder until she started using it solely as a finishing powder. And I've been using it as a finishing powder the last like several days, and I've really been enjoying it that way. So I am going to keep the Say powder, and I will continue to use that as a finishing powder. The last powder before we get into all of my Bare Minerals. This is the Givenchy Prism Libre Color Correcting Pressed Powder. I have the shade, I think it's 3 Viola Rosé. I bought this because everyone was talking about how this was basically the pressed version of the old loose version of the Givenchy Prism Libre powder. I find this to be slightly heavier underneath the eyes, and it could be because it is a pressed powder. Perhaps it's slightly more concentrated. It isn't my favorite, but I also want to continue to use this and like make this work for me, so I am going to keep this one. But this is something, when I do finish this, I would not buy this again. At least that's how I feel right now. Sometimes over time, when you're using something consistently, your mind does change, but in this moment, this would not be a repurchase. All right, that just brings me to my Bare Minerals powders. So I have 2 of the Bare Minerals Bare Pro, and then I have 3 of the Bare Minerals Original. I honestly don't know what the difference is. Oh, one of the Bare Minerals Bare Pros I definitely bought myself, and then they sent me the new updated version. I don't know which one is which. I really don't know which one's which. I want to see if they like feel any different. Ooh, this one definitely feels creamier and like a little bit more like buttery to the touch. That one feels maybe a little bit more powdery, but which one would I prefer as a powder? I also feel like the shade looks slightly different. This one looks slightly more like yellow orangey almost, whereas this one looks more neutral. And even though this one felt a little bit more creamy, this one in terms of shade I feel like looks better. I feel like this is the newer version. I wish I could tell. Oh, one's 24-hour skin perfecting, one's 16-hour. I guess I'd have to look and see what the updated situation is. I think of the Bare Pros, I'm gonna keep this one. Again, they're the same shade. This is the 24-hour skin perfecting, and I'm gonna declutter the 16-hour skin perfecting. I do not need all these powder foundations. That's why I'm like, I gotta get rid of some of these. And then the Bare Minerals Original I have in 3 separate shades. So I have 2 Fair Ivory, which I believe is the one I've used the most. Then I have the shade 3 Fairly Light and 4 Golden Fair. I again just don't need all of these powder foundations. I really don't. I feel like I should only keep one, and I think I'm going to keep the shade 2 Fair Ivory just because I feel like this is the one I have been reaching for the most, and I just feel like this shade works best for me. So I'll just keep this one. I honestly don't know if I've touched this one. I've maybe used this one time. I'll keep this, and then I will pass these 2 along. So that means of my pressed powders, we are keeping 6 and decluttering 5. So we almost did 50% in the pressed powder. Of all my powders, I'm decluttering a total of 8, and I'm keeping a total of 12, which I'm trying to remember. I feel like my makeup inventory at the beginning of the year, I feel like I had like 10 or 12 powders, maybe 8. I could be wrong. We're decluttering 40% of the powder collection, and that honestly feels good. I just still am kind of in awe as to how many powders I own, but 40% of the powders are getting the boot. And I'm happy to report that at least all of my powders now fit in my powder container again. I don't have room for more, so it's a good thing that I did not pick up the Patrick or the 1 star. Why can I not speak? The 1 size powder. It's a good thing I didn't pick that up. I need to definitely finish a powder before I do that. My loose powders definitely take up the most space, so I should try and finish a loose powder. Maybe I could finish, honestly, maybe I could finish the Makeup by Mario Fair Light before, like, by the end of winter. Not this year, but maybe by the end of winter 2026. Anyway, let's move on to the final category in this declutter video, setting spray. All right, on to the last part of this declutter. We have setting sprays. And if you could believe it, at one point, like beginning of this year, all of my sprays fit into this cute little container, but my sprays have kind of, what feels like, exploded a little bit as well this year. Although I will say I do love setting spray. I love to mist my face, so this doesn't concern me too much. Let's see, I do currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 setting sprays. Honestly, too many, but again, I like to use setting spray a lot, so doesn't worry me too much. And I honestly don't see myself decluttering too much from this category. So I'm definitely keeping my MAC Fix Pluses. I bought these during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty earlier this year. I love this setting spray. This is my favorite setting spray for during makeup application when I'm wanting to melt my powders together. I just think this is beautiful for that. I did buy 2 during the sale because obviously it was half off and I wanted a backup. So these are staying. I'm about halfway through my first one. So hopefully between this and this, it'll get me through next year. We'll see if these are on sale again during the spring's Ulta 21 Days of Beauty or the fall, and I would buy again, but those 2 are staying. I will also keep my MAC Fix Plus Stay Over. I purchased this one because I was curious how similar this would be to like a Benefit Goof Proof or an Urban Decay All Nighter. I do really enjoy this one as well. I do feel like this helps increase the wear time of my makeup. I believe I got this half off during a different Ulta 21 Days of Beauty, and if I were to estimate, and maybe about halfway through this one, the 2 Urban Decay All Nighters. So Urban Decay did send this one to me. This is the natural finish. And then one of my coworkers actually also works for Sephora, and she got the Urban Decay All Nighter Glow in gratis, and she gave this to me. I will say I've like enjoyed using the Urban Decay All Nighter again and the Glow. I do like glowy skin, so I've been enjoying reaching for the Glow. Would I buy either of these again once I finish? Probably not. I honestly prefer the Benefit Goof Proof, if I'm being honest. And I'm not like super loyal to the Urban Decay All Nighter, but I will obviously use them because I have them. I do feel like they do make a difference in my makeup wear time. I do like the mister on the new bottles, so these 2 are both gonna stay. I do actually think I am going to declutter my Bare Minerals Original Mineral Veil. They sent this to me earlier this year. It's a 24-hour setting spray. I don't necessarily know that this increases the wear time of my makeup, and even if it does, this is one of those sprays that kind of smells like wet dog to me. I just don't like the way that this smells. And now that I have like both of these Urban Decay All Nighters, I just don't feel like I need a 3rd spray. And I also have the MAC Stay Over. So I literally have 3 sprays for longevity at this point in time. I don't really care about a matte finish. In fact, I'd rather a glowy finish. So I actually think I will declutter the Bare Minerals Original Mineral Veil. My daughter always seems to want to grab for this one, so I'll just pass that along to her. I then have the One Size Powder Melt glass setting spray. This is by far my favorite setting spray I have ever used. I will say, like, this is such a beautiful finishing spray. I was and have been really into the Pixie Glow Mist. Again, I do like a glowier finish to my skin, but this is replacing that. And I do believe this is about double the cost of the Pixi Glow Mist. This is worth it in my opinion. There is something so freaking special about this setting spray. This is definitely going in my best of beauty for 2025. I absolutely love this. The finish and just like the glassy skin-like glow that this gives without being too glowy is just, I can't even put it into words. I absolutely love this spray. So that's definitely staying. Then I have the Huda Beauty Easy Bake setting spray. I know that the mister is kind of like messed up in this, but I actually really enjoy this spray as well. I did just get the mini because I wanted to see what I thought of it. I will say I haven't been the best at reaching for this lately, but when I was first testing this, I was really into this. There is something about this spray that does such a beautiful job of just blurring the skin. If I feel like maybe my makeup isn't looking perfectly blended, or maybe my pores are just feeling a little bit enlarged that day, this just smooths everything over, and it's really interesting to get that from a setting spray. I don't think I've done it yet, but I'd be really curious about like using both of these kind of in conjunction with one another as a finishing spray. I would likely do the Huda Easy Bake first and then finish with this. That would be a beautiful combo. This is something that when I finish this mini, I would buy this one again in a full size. I don't have another spray that I feel like blurs my skin. So again, for a nice blurring finishing spray, I really enjoy this and I would consider buying this again. All right, then I have my 2 SPF mists. My e.l.f. one is expired, and I do have this currently going in my non-makeup, like just other beauty products project pan. And I was gonna use this as like a setting spray, like a prep, obviously it is a setting spray, like a prep setting spray. And I'm just like, girl, why are we doing that? I'm just gonna declutter this. It's expired. It was fine. I prefer the vacation one because I love the scent of the vacation one, but even the vacation one I didn't finish. This one doesn't expire until January of 2026, so I will likely keep this one. I don't necessarily know I'm going to finish this before it expires. This is something I could see myself keeping and just like spraying all over me for the scent though next summer. So e.l.f. is gonna get the boot, but I'm going to keep the vacation. That means we are keeping 8 sprays, decluttering 2. So we didn't do the best in terms of setting spray, but we still decluttered 20%. And honestly, that feels like even decluttering 2 feels good, just because it's hard for me to let go of my sprays, because I feel like spray is something that I use every single day, multiple sprays a day, and I can, it's really hard for a spray to be like so bad that I'm not going to use it. But decluttering 2, keeping 8. We're kicking this declutter video off with one of my prized possessions, my bronzer collection. I love bronzer. I'm sure in most people's eyes I overuse bronzer. I just can't help myself. There is something about a sun-kissed glow, being bronze. I absolutely love it. The only difficult thing is I haven't self-tanned in a while, and so I feel like some of the bronzers, like if I swatch them out on my arms, are gonna look significantly too dark for me, but that's okay, because I know typically in an average year I'm self-tanning quite a bit. I'm out in the sun a lot in the summer, and a lot of these bronzers really do work for me. This is gonna be so hard because bronzer is like one of those categories, like I will buy like 5 bronzers in a span of like a month. I don't know, there's something about like right before, like usually like it's usually May and June, I go bronzer crazy because I'm just so excited about warm weather. I'm from Minnesota, so I have a lot of bronzers. I love my bronzers, but this is also way too many bronzers. It's so funny, when I got all these bronzers out to go through today, before pulling all these out, I was like, I really don't have a lot of bronzers. And then I pulled them all out and I was like, oh my gosh, yes I do. So I definitely reach for my powder bronzers on a more frequent basis than my liquids and creams. So I think I'm gonna start with liquids and creams just because I'm hoping it'll be a little bit easier, but I do love all my liquids and creams. I'm gonna take a sip of coffee before we even get into this. I'm gonna start with these 2 right here. I am gonna be keeping both of these, and actually if I do end up self-tanning before the end of the year, I am still hoping I could finish one of these. Like I feel like I'm so close to finishing this Shay Glowy Super Gel in Sun Glow. I know this is not necessarily considered a bronzer, but I definitely use it as a bronzing product. I usually use it all over my face to match my face to my self-tan, but I wasn't self-tanning as much the latter half of this summer, nor was I outside as much. So I don't know if this is going to be an empty, but I am keeping both of these. I do love both of these. And I will say when I finish, actually we'll get to what I will continue to repurchase for the product that I will match my face to my self tan. It actually wouldn't be either of these. We'll get into the product next that it would be, which is my Makeup by Mario Self Sculpt Bronzing and Shaping Serum. I am about halfway through this one right here, which is in the shade Fair, and then I ended up buying light medium this year, literally like a week before I stopped. I halted basically all makeup usage because I just was not feeling well mid-July and beyond. But this is so beautiful, and this is what I love to use all over my face when I want to match my self tan to my face. It gives the most beautiful glow without being too much. I absolutely love it. The Fair definitely matches me better when I am fair, so this is something that I can get use out of now. This is something that this is the product I will continue to repurchase when I want to match my face to my body when I'm self-tanning. I'm definitely keeping both of these. The one thing I do want to note about these is these are not my favorite for like sculpted bronzing or like targeted bronzing. I truly do just use this all over my face. So if you're looking to use this as something that's more of like your targeted everyday bronzer, I personally have found that it's too sheer for me. But like I said in the intro, I do love to over bronze. Those are both staying. Oh, you guys, my cream bronzers are gonna be so difficult. I'm like looking at these, I'm like, is there anything that I feel like I can actually declutter out of my cream bronzers? I really don't know. Okay, well, I know I'm not gonna get rid of this, so I'm just gonna go for this one next because it's another easy one. This is the Ilia Sunshift Cream Bronzer. I got the shade Eclipse. I have a dip in this. When I first got this, I wanna say I got this either at the end of, sometime in May or June. I could not put this down. I said that I typically reach for powder bronzers more frequently, but I was reaching for this every single day. I finished testing it, I had my thoughts on it, and I couldn't put it down. This is one of my favorite products, I believe, that I bought this year. I think it's so beautiful, gives a really beautiful bronzy glow to the skin, and I absolutely adore this, so that I'm definitely gonna keep. I'm gonna pull these 3 products out next, because these 3 are all, well, this is actually more of a bronzer, but these, my Give Beauty Duo, I only have the contour side left, and I don't contour all that much, although I don't feel like this is the most like intense contour type of shade. There it is, swatched right there. Although I'm like, do I even like that tone? Maybe not. Maybe not. Then I also have my Huda Beauty Tantour in the shade Fair, which I do have a pan on. This is so old in my collection. There's that one swatched. Okay, this one still doesn't smell like it's gone off or anything. The one from Give Beauty definitely has more of like a glow to it, but like, do you want your contour to glow? Oh, I feel like I think the difficult part of this is I have a pan in this, and like there's that panner side of me that like would really love to continue to work on this. And it literally doesn't smell off. I used this for a brief time this year while I was hitting a goal in project panning. I feel like I'm not gonna end up being able to get rid of any of my cream bronzers, and you guys are gonna judge me. But I feel like I wanna keep this. I think maybe though, I definitely don't need 2 cream products that are like contouring products. So I actually think maybe I'll toss this in my empties bin, count this as like a half an empty, or maybe count this as an empty, but obviously I didn't finish this part of the product. And I might just declutter the second half of this just because I really don't find myself reaching for this. This was in my plan to pan this year, and I wanted to hit a pan in this. And the only time I'm ever reaching for this product is if I am trying to do like a nose contour, but that's like really me trying to force it. So I think I will declutter my Give Beauty Duo. And then I have my NARS cream bronzer, Sunkissed cream bronzer in the shade Laguna. This is definitely a more pigmented bronzer as well, but I do love this bronzer. It is, again, getting pretty old, but doesn't smell like it's gone off by any means. It's less old than Tantour, and when I swatch those 2 next to each other, I'm like, okay, I feel like maybe it's time to get rid of Tantour. I feel like I should do that, because I have so many cream bronzers in my collection, and I don't reach for cream bronzers that much, so like, I feel like I should have less cream bronzer, so I'm gonna declutter Tantour as well. I'm gonna do it. I don't care about contouring, so like I can declutter that. But I am gonna keep the NARS Sun Kiss because I do really love this product. I really do. Okay, final decision. Those two decluttered. That one's gonna stay for now. All right, next up I have the Cloud Paint, the Glossier Cloud Paint in the shade Dune. Should I zoom you guys in a little bit? I'm just gonna swatch this right here. This is obviously a liquid bronzer. I have kept this because I thought, I don't know why I kept this. Maybe because I just like didn't really have my head wrapped around it. There it is swatched. I feel like that looks quite like yellowy orangey on me. Whereas like something like the Fenty Cheeks Out bronzer in Butter Biscuit is something I'm more likely to reach for just because it is a cream. That one definitely has more of a yellowness to it maybe, but it's definitely less. I feel like this is just not a flattering shade for me for a bronzer. Plus it's a liquid bronzer, and usually I'm only ever reaching for liquid bronzers like all over the face. So I think I can pass along the Glossier Cloud Paint in Dune. I am gonna keep the Fenty Cheeks Out cream bronzer though. I do really enjoy this. I am also gonna keep my Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Enhancer. I have the shade Light Medium. I do have a pan in this. This is such a beautiful product. This is pretty sheer. I do like to use this on days maybe that I'm not wearing like anything on my face, but I want like maybe I'm wearing primer, but I'm not necessarily wearing even like a skin tint. I will put a little bit on my forehead and a little bit on my cheeks just to give me like the slightest amount of shape to my face so my face doesn't look as puffy. I actually should pull this out because it's been a little bit since I've reached for this, but there are definitely days that I'm going to the office now not reaching for makeup, and I think I could get a ton of use out of this. I think this is a beautiful product, and this is something I would buy again when I finish. So that is gonna stay. I will also keep, unless it smells weird, I will also keep my Chanel Le Beige cream bronzer. Still actually has kind of like a bit of a fragrance to it. I do have a pan in that. I can't remember. I think I hit the pan this year. I think I did hit it this year. There's that one swatched right there. This was expensive. It's like one of my only Chanel products. I do reach for this a decent amount every single summer. It's not, again, it's not the most pigmented, but I do enjoy having this, and I would like to possibly expand that pan in the future. I know there's still a lot of product left in this, and this is another product that is getting older, so perhaps this is something I should focus on for next year, but for the time being, I'd love to keep that. I will also keep my Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Sun Kiss Glow Bronzer. Do not judge me when I open this up. My daughter did get into this, and it looks very interesting. This is something that is definitely a better cream bronzer for me in the summer when I do have more of a tan. There it is swatched, but I think it is one of the most beautiful cream bronzers I've ever used. The way it's more of like a cream to powder, and the way that it just sits on the skin, I just think it's such a lovely product. It's one of my favorite cream bronzers. I mean, this year is reaching for the Ilia a lot, but it has been one of my favorite cream bronzers in my collection to reach for, so I am gonna keep that. And then the last cream slash liquid bronzer I have is the Rare Beauty Liquid Contour in the shade Mellow. I really enjoyed this when I started using it earlier this year, and then I feel like I really liked it when I first started using it. I was like, I think this might be a new favorite cream slash liquid bronzer. And then I really started to change my mind on it, although that is a little bit more soft than, I mean, not that I actually didn't keep any of my liquid contours. I think I might keep this. I know I'm not decluttering a lot out of this section, but I think I actually might keep that just because I did like this when I first started using it. Then my mind kind of shifted a little bit, but I'm not ready to let go. I'm not ready. It is a little bit like more, because it is technically a liquid contour, it's a little bit more cool leaning, or even like neutral cool, so not quite as warm as all of my other cream and liquid bronzers. So I think I will keep this for right now. So that means we did not have a lot of success here. We have 11 that we are keeping, and we are decluttering only 3. Hopefully we'll do a little bit better in the powder bronzer category. Although the one thing I will say is really these two are pretty close to being done. So like hopefully my bronzer, my liquid bronzer, cream and liquid bronzer collection we'll go down a little bit. All right, moving on to, okay, maybe I will zoom out a little bit because I don't know if you can see everything. Moving on to my powder bronzers. There's definitely some powder bronzers in here that I am ready to part ways with. And I think I've like slowly been setting the powder bronzers I'm ready to declutter like aside, so they're out of sight, out of mind. And I think that's where maybe I felt like my bronzer collection is diminishing. So we'll see if it actually, like, if that actually happens and I'm actually able to, in this moment, declutter some bronzers. But let's jump into it. I know right off the bat, I am finally ready to declutter my Marc Jacobs Tantastic bronzer. This is extremely old in my collection, and I just feel like every time I have used this year, it just has not looked flattering on my skin because it just kind of like blends on a little patchy now. Like I feel like the quality has just started to diminish because it is such an old product. Clearly this has gotten a lot of love and a lot of use in its lifetime. Like, would I have loved to finish off this ginormous pan of bronzer and feel really accomplished in that regard? Yes, but it is truly just, there's so many other bronzers I'd rather reach for. I am ready to let that one go. Then I have, speaking of ginormous pans of bronzers, I have quite possibly another one of my favorite purchases of the entire year. It's the Dior Forever Nude Soft Matte Bronzer, or I have the shade Soft Matte. I bought this earlier this year when this launched, and this is by far my favorite powder bronzer. I absolutely love this bronzer. I think it is so beautiful on the skin. Anytime I just am like, ugh, I really don't know which bronzer I want to reach for today, I'll just reach for this because I just feel like it blends out so beautifully. It's not super pigmented right off the bat, which honestly works better for me because sometimes I can really go too heavy-handed. This is a phenomenal bronzer. I would be devastated if they discontinue this. I really hope that they do not because I really love this one. It is my favorite, and this one is definitely staying. Okay, I have these two bronzers next. These are the NYX Buttermelt bronzers. I have the shade 2 All Buttered Up and 3 Deserve Butter. These I really loved last year. I really loved. Like, these were some of my like favorite bronzers that I purchased and tried last year. I had purchased 3 first and clearly loved it so much that I ended up buying shade 2. What I found with this is I just think it's too pigmented, and I just feel like every time I wore these this year, I was like, what was I doing last year that like, did my bronzer look horrible every time I did it last year, or what was I doing last year that I'm not doing this year? I've just found that it's too pigmented and just doesn't look as flattering on my skin as maybe I once thought that it did. And I kind of feel the same about both shades. So I am actually going to declutter both of these. It's just, I'd much rather reach for my Dior bronzer over either of these two because the Dior is easier to work with. It's not super pigmented right off the bat. I don't have to work as hard to blend it. So it just doesn't make sense for me to keep these when I'd rather be reaching for other bronzers in my collection. So I am ready to pass those two along. Okay, then I have my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer. I have the shade 2, and this is another bronzer that I have clearly really loved and adored. I have a really large pan going in this one, and I'm obviously going to keep this one. I still think this is a beautiful bronzer. When I finish this pan, I will probably keep this compact, maybe though, because it's like really big. Maybe I won't, we'll see. But I wouldn't repurchase this bronzer simply because I do like the Dior a little bit better. So I would be just totally fine reaching for this and not needing to replace this. That's not to say I don't like this bronzer. I have still been reaching for this. I've still been enjoying this. I'm excited to see when I do my year end all of the pans in my collection video. I'm excited to see how much this pan has expanded because I do feel like I reached for this a decent amount this year. Again, this will be staying, but it's not a bronzer I think I will replace when I do ultimately complete it. And in fact, maybe this is something I should focus on for next year. Okay, I have my Victoria Beckham Bronzing Duo. I have this little slice of luxury. When I first bought this, I really loved it, but when I used it this year, I just didn't think it was as flattering on my skin. I think I need 1 to 2 shades down. I think this year I was finally coming to terms with like, I can wear a lot of bronzer, but maybe I should get a shade or 2 lighter in bronzer so that even if I do load up on the bronzer, it's not quite as intense. It makes me really sad because this is such a beautiful product. Like, the packaging is so weighted and just beautiful. but I just have other bronzers that just look so much more flattering on my skin. So I am ready to let this go and pass this along to a new home. Okay, next I have this one. This is tricky. So this is the RMS the shade is Beach Walk Betty. It's the Redimension Hydra Bronzer. I bought this during Ulta 21 Days of Beauty. I will say this has not been my favorite so far, but I think a part of that is the shade is just a little bit too dark for me right now. Again, I haven't self-tanned in months and months and months, and I don't want to let this go until I keep this and see what I think of it next summer. I have definitely been liking a glowier complexion overall, and this does have a beautiful kind of sheeny glow to it. And so I really want to see what I think of it when I just think the shade matches me a little bit better, and I do believe it will match me better next summer. So if it doesn't, then I'll end up decluttering it next year. But for right now, I'm going to keep this. I don't see myself reaching for it this winter. It does not look like the most flattering shade on my skin tone, but I do want to give it a fair shot still. Okay, this one's really tough actually. This is the Dior Forever Natural Nude Bronzer in Tan Bronze. I really did like this for such a long time, and now I find that the shade, again, I don't know if the shade is quite right for me. However, I feel like I was thinking I was gonna declutter it, and then the last few times that I've reached for it, I'm like, I think I'm gonna keep this one actually for the winter, because I do think this is a more flattering shade for me in the winter time. It is a little bit more neutral in tone and not quite as warm as some of my other bronzers, which does flatter me more in the winter. If I don't get a ton of use out of it this winter, then perhaps I will end up decluttering it next summer. But I do think for right now, I will keep this. I have a really good dip going on this like part of the pan. So it'd be fun to hit a pan on this or eventually finish this up if I do end up reaching for it a lot. I don't even know if this is available. Like, I'm pretty sure this has replaced this, but I do definitely prefer this one now, and I don't need to buy this again even if I do end up finishing it. All right, I'm definitely not getting rid of these two luxury treasures. I have two of the Gucci bronzers. I have shade 1 and shade 3. Shade 1 definitely matches me very well in the winter time. I think this is a beautiful formula. Again, more buildable and just lovely. Very, very blendable. Expensive, yes. Packaging is bulky but beautiful. I'm keeping it. And then I have shade 3, which honestly is probably too dark for me even in the summertime, but I have the limited edition packaging. I can make this work for me in the summer, and I just don't want to let this one go. If I'm being honest, I just don't want to let that one go, so I'm gonna keep that. Ooh, then I have the Laura Mercier Bronze Color Infusion blush in the shade 20 Marisol. I bought this earlier this year, and this is something I've kind of gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth on, and I've realized that I've wanted to like this so bad that I keep giving it chance after chance after chance, but I just prefer other bronzers in my collection. And so when I am reaching for this, it's kind of like I'm forcing myself to reach for it to see if I can make it work for me, to see if maybe I'll like it better whatever day I am reaching for it. And I think it's hard, like when you buy a product, it's hard to just give up on it right away, like within the same year. I just have better bronzers in my collection. So I actually am gonna pass on the Laura Mercier bronzer. I have the What's Up Beauty Wind Dancer Pressed Setting Powder in the shade Tan, which I was keeping around to see if I wanted to use this as a bronzer, and I just don't like it that way. So and obviously this is not gonna work for me as a powder, so I am gonna declutter that as well. I have my Fenty Beauty Sunstalker bronzer in the shade Into Sun. I've actually been reaching for this quite a bit lately just because I haven't been self-tanning. It's one of the lighter bronzers in my collection. I have had this for forever. I have used this so much, and I recently feel like maybe the pan expanded just ever so slightly, but it still feels like I just have this really, really small pan. However, the last 2 times I've reached for this, I feel like it has expanded some. So I'm hoping maybe the pan will really start growing aggressively. But this is something I also want to try and finish next year. I definitely want to try and finish next year. I'm gonna keep it. But this is by far, well, we're gonna get to an older bronzer in my collection, but I'm decluttering that one, so that's an old one. The one that's even older that I am gonna declutter is my NARS Sunwash Bronzer in the shade Laguna. This just doesn't, like, this is so old, it just doesn't perform well anymore. It blends patchily onto the skin and it just does not look flattering. So I am going to get rid of that. I I am also going to declutter this Joycey. I think this is actually a blush, but I got it because I thought it looked like a really beautiful bronzer. It's just a little bit too red toned for me, and the shade just doesn't look quite right as a bronzer. So ultimately, not gonna keep that. There's so many other things I'd rather reach for. I'm gonna pass that one along. I am going to for sure be keeping my What's Up Beauty Cheeky Turi bronzer in the shade 10 Light. I had pulled this out about a month ago to start using it to see if it was something that I wanted to keep, and I have not been able to put this down. I have recently started to try and use this a little bit more just to get use out of something else, but I was using this every day for like a solid 2.5 weeks. I absolutely love this. It is like a marbled texture, but it has the most just like natural light bronze to the skin. It looks so flattering. It's a baked product, so you can't like it's not super pigmented right off the bat, and I just think this is so beautiful. So I am going to keep that. And then I'm kind of undecided about the shade 20 medium because I obviously haven't gotten to test this in the same way, but I love the formula so much. I'm like, I probably will really like this when I am tan in the summer. So I am going to keep this. And again, if I don't end up liking this one as much, if I don't like the shade as much, I can just declutter this one next year. But because I do really enjoy this formula, I'm going to keep this one too, because I think I will get a lot of use out of this next summer. And then that just leaves me with my Benefit Hoola bronzer, which I bought during last year's 21 Days of Beauty. And I bought this because I was watching, around that time I was watching an old video of mine, and I had linked my makeup and I had linked the Hoola bronzer, and I loved the way my bronzer looked in that video. And I'm like, I'll keep Hoola. It's just like I don't get as excited to reach for it. It's never that I don't like the way that Hoola looks. I just haven't been as excited to reach for the Hoola bronzer. But I feel like this is one I would be kind of decluttering just to declutter. It's a little bit different. Okay, I'm going to keep Hoola for now. Keeping Hoola. Okay, and those are all of my powder bronzers. So after that, we are keeping 10 powder bronzers and we are decluttering 9. Okay, so almost 50% of my powder bronzers. I actually do feel really good about that. I know we did not do as well in the cream and liquid category, but I do feel good about decluttering 9 powder bronzers. Ultimately, that means we landed at keeping 21 of my bronzers and decluttering 11, which still means we decluttered 35% of my bronzers, which honestly, I feel like bronzer is just a tough category. I'm gonna say that probably about all of my categories, but I do love my bronzers. So to declutter over 30%, over 1/3, I do feel really good about that. And so we're gonna feel good about that, and we're gonna move on to the highlight portion of this declutter. Okay. We have highlight here, and I'm honestly so scared. I didn't realize how out of control my highlight collection was until I like put everything together. I need to count these up really quick before we get started. So give me a moment. I have 22 cream and liquid highlights and 26 powder highlights. Holy smokes. Did I say 21 cream and liquid? So 47 total highlights. That's crazy. Plus I also have like highlighters in my face palettes. I'm afraid too, because I feel like highlight is just like, it's a pretty powder, so I feel like it's gonna be kind of hard to declutter some of these. But I want to start with my cream and liquids just because these are what I wear probably the least. Let's see, let me get all of my liquid highlights out. All right, here are all of my true liquid highlights, which I count 12. I'm counting like the Auric Glow Lust and the e.l.f. Liquid Halo Glows in my liquid highlights, even though sometimes I use them more as an all over face and complexion product. And actually I'll start with those 3 products because I am gonna keep all 3 of these. I do have the Auric Glow Lust in the shade Selenite. I honestly have way too many of these liquid highlight products. I need to get through several of these before I allow myself to buy any more. And then I have the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid in the shade 2 Fair Light and 3.5. I don't know what 3.5 is. Oh, medium. I was using 3.5 earlier this summer when I had more of a tan, and I was using this all over the face. I thought it was beautiful. I will say I definitely do not reach for my Auric enough. This is getting old in my collection. I really should focus on finishing that up next year. I actually had this on my plan to pan list this year, and it did not go as planned. But I am gonna keep all 3 of these. I sadly think I need to declutter my Lisa Eldridge. This is something I definitely at some point will buy again, but right now I think mine's so old. When I swatch this out, it has like these like balls in it, and it just, this is very old as well. Oh my gosh, it's such a pretty product though. I definitely do want to buy more from Lisa Eldridge, or try more from Lisa Eldridge. Maybe next year if I do some like brand deep dives or like full dedicated brand reviews. Lisa Eldridge is definitely one I'd be interested in, and I would absolutely pick up the, what is this called? The Seamless Skin, again, the Elevated Glow. This is such a beautiful glowy product. It's definitely not as pigmented as something like the Auric Glow Lust, but it just gives the most beautiful glassy wet shine to the skin. I'm like, do I declutter mine? I feel like I need to, like, I feel like this is just old in my collection, but it's so pretty. Maybe I'm not noticing the little balls. Should I try and make this work? Let me smell it. Like, does it smell like pool water? Maybe, I don't know. It's just such a beautiful product though. Okay, I lied. Maybe I'm gonna try and make this work, but I literally need to use this. Okay, I guess we're keeping that. This is going great. I'm definitely also keeping my Dior Forever Glow Maximizer. I can't remember if I bought this year or last year, but this is a very, very beautiful liquid highlight. I like that it has the doe foot applicator. I have the shade pink. I do prefer a pink highlighter. I just think this looks so freaking beautiful on the skin. I definitely don't reach for this enough, but I'm gonna keep that. And I think if I'm keeping that, I can definitely let go of the Burt's Bees The Luminizer. This is another pink highlight. And because of the like squeeze tube applicator of this, I just don't ever reach for this. And I would much rather reach for the Dior over this. I still think this is a beautiful product. I just never reach for it because it's just not the most user-friendly. So I'm gonna let go of the Burt's Bees. I think I'll also let go of my Rare Beauty. I can't remember if I've decluttered this and recluttered this or if I didn't, but I definitely know my daughter would love this. I have the shade Mesmerize. I feel like I've decluttered this several times and then like ended up recluttering it. I just prefer something a little bit more icy pink, honestly, when I'm reaching for a pink highlight. I still think that's a beautiful highlight, but my daughter's so into Rare Beauty, she would not mind me passing this along to her. So I'm gonna do that. I think I will definitely also declutter this one from Flower Nose. It's the Midsummer Fairy Tales highlight, and this is like an icy pink champagne highlight, but it definitely has glitter running throughout it. It is really, really pretty, but again, I feel like maybe my daughter could get use out of this, and it definitely has like glitter flakes and specks. It's so pretty. I don't need it. I don't need it. I do not need it. I'm gonna pass this along. This, honestly, of my liquid highlights is probably about the only thing I'd really reach for on my cheeks. I have these two from Bare Minerals. One of them I purchased myself, one of them they sent to me. This is like nothing special, but I don't want to declutter this because I can definitely get use out of it on like my chest and neck area. And I'd rather kind of do that then I don't know of anyone that I could think of to give these to, so I think I will keep both of these, hoping maybe I can finish both of them next summer. They're just kind of like nothing exciting. They're not super pigmented on the cheeks. Here, I can swatch out the shades that I have. Where can I swatch? Everything's already so glowy. This one is in Pink Glow, and it's funny, I would swatch these in store every time my daughter and I went into Ulta, and I wanted these so badly. This one I think is Opal Glow, yeah. Then I have Opal Glow, which is the one that I purchased myself. I mean, it's pretty, it's just, I don't know. It just, I don't need it. I mean, I do need it, right? I'm keeping it, but it's not something I'm like excited to put on my cheeks. But I do think it'll be a beautiful glowy product to use on my chest and neck next summer. Finish them up and then be done with them. So those two I'm gonna keep. I have my Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Beauty Light Wand in Pillow Talk. This is another thing. I think I may end up passing this one along to my daughter. She has been itching for a Charlotte Tilbury product, and again, if I'm wanting a liquid highlight, this is what I'm reaching for. This honestly is probably a little too deep for my skin when I'm at my fairest, and I don't see myself getting any use out of this again until potentially next summer. And again, I still just don't feel like it's like the perfect highlight for me, or the perfect highlight shade. So I actually think I'll pass that along as well. And then finally, I have the Jaclyn Cosmetics, the Old High Gleams liquid highlighter. This is something I'm gonna use on my body. I keep saying I'm gonna do that, and I haven't worked my way through this yet, but I'm gonna do that rather than declutter, because it is a really beautiful, very, very highlighty product. I just need to actually work my way through it. So that being said, we are keeping 8 liquid highlights, decluttering 4. Of the 8 that I'm keeping, these are really the only 2 I can see myself actually like, well, this one is actually probably the only thing I would use targeted on my actual like cheeks. 3 for the body. These I could use like all over my face. This I need to use up. And if I feel like this is going bad, maybe I'll do like one more year-end declutter. But as of this moment, I'm gonna keep 8 liquid highlight, declutter 4. All right, then I have all of my like balmy highlights. So let's see what we have here. First up, I know I'm needing to get that hair out of the way. I'm definitely going to be keeping my Rose Ink highlight. This is an opalescent. I am so close to being done with this. I really, really am hopeful I can still finish this before the end of the year. The day that I'm filming this specific portion is October 31st. So by the time you see it, it might be like mid to end of November. Hopefully I will continue to work my way through this and could potentially empty this before the end of the year. This is something I would consider purchasing again in the future. I think this is such a beautiful, beautiful highlight on the cheeks. It is kind of that pink tone that I really like. I'm definitely more, if I'm reaching for like a cream or liquid product, I'm definitely more likely to reach for a cream over a liquid for highlight. But this maybe still hopefully will be an empty before the end of the year. Keeping that. My Flower Beauty Day Glow. I do think this is a beautiful product. It's getting older. It is the champagne shade. Hold on. I'm like, my hand is so highlighted. Let me go wash my hand quickly. I'm gonna maybe swatch all of my like champagne highlights and see what I want to keep versus what I don't. See, that is so pretty. And that still feels really nice on the skin. I also have the shade Parla from Westman Atelier. I'm definitely gonna keep Parla. This is like a really luxe product. It's almost got like pretty much a transparent base, maybe like a slight like nudie goldness to it. It is more of like a wet emollient product. It's not the most, like, it can be quite annoying to use. It was just so luxe, and I definitely had no business buying this, but I still did. I'm gonna keep that for sure. Let's see, the Ritual Defee one. I never reached for this one either. Oh, but it's so freaking pretty. That one is definitely a little bit more rose gold, whereas this is more of like a, almost like a champagne, or I don't want to say like white, but it's definitely a lot lighter. I know I'm going to be getting rid of my Patrick Ta Duo. This is in the shade Baby. This is the old formulation. It's garbage. I definitely don't need it. So that for sure is, I'm gonna declutter. These two I'm still thinking about. I have my one from Phytosurgeons in Divine Daylight. This is the Spectral Shine. This is gonna be really hard to swatch just because the nature of this product is it is more of like a stiff balm that you kind of like press into the skin. It's not gonna be like the most highlighty product, but it does give this really beautiful slight glow to the cheeks, and it is nice and blurring. This is something that I am going to be keeping, but it's not even necessarily what I would consider like a highlight, but I didn't really know where else to include this in my collection. That I'm gonna stay. This is the Flower Nose Shells Jewel Collection Highlighter Balm. This is more of like a sparkly, like glittery highlight. So this is something that I can definitely declutter. I don't know if you can see, but that definitely has like actual like sparkle flecks to it. So that one I can declutter. And then I have my 3 Merit Balms. So I have the shade Citrine. Where can I swatch these? Okay. There is Citrine. Citrine is definitely more gold. Jeez, this is so hard. I don't reach for gold that much, but that's so pretty. I also have the shade Kava, which is almost more sheer. I think I like the Flower Beauty one more than Kava. So I can declutter Kava because I know my daughter likes to play with Kava. I'm gonna declutter Merit Kava. Then I have the shade Bounce, which I think is like the more pinky one. Yeah, Bounce is really pretty too. Ugh. I wanna declutter more than 3 products. Like, do I need the Ritual Defeat one? Probably not. I also feel like I probably don't need the shade Citrine, which is the more golden of the Merit sticks. I just do not reach, like I'm much more likely to reach for a pink or a champagne or even a rose gold. So actually I think I'll declutter Citrine and then I'll probably keep these 3. So I'll keep the Day Glow highlight, which I don't know if you can even really see swatched anymore. I'll keep Bounce from Merit, which is this really beautiful pink sheer highlighter. And then I will keep this one from Ritual Defeat, which is in the shade Solar Flare, which is right there. So that means of my cream balm highlights, I have kept 6 and I am decluttering 4. We did okay there. So of all of my creams slash liquids, we are keeping 14 and we are decluttering 8. Okay, so that brings us to the even more difficult portion of today's video, which is my powder highlights. I really do not see myself doing very well here. Ugh, this is gonna be so tough. I don't see myself doing too good here. I love my powder highlights. Should we start with my pink ones? Because we know how much I love pink highlight. Let's see. Pink. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to declutter any of my pink highlights. Let's start with the Gucci highlight. This is in the shade Frosted Lilac. This isn't necessarily a pink. This is like a true lilac. This is unlike any other like highlight I have in my collection. It is pretty unique and it is very brightening. Not my favorite highlight of all time, but this was very expensive and I really don't have another shade like this in my collection. I don't know if you can even like see that swatch very well. Should I try it on my hand? I do like this formula as well. It's definitely different from a lot of other highlight formulas in my collection. I am gonna keep the Gucci. I have 2 Dior bronzers. So I have the shade 2. This is the Dior Skin Nude Air. In the shade 2, this is extremely old, but one of my first highlights in my collection, one of my first luxury makeup products in my collection, and just, I love that. And then I bought this one this year, and this is in the shade Pink Halo, and this has quickly become like my favorite highlight in my entire collection. Those 2 are definitely a little bit different. Not a lot different, but definitely somewhat different. I'm gonna keep both of them. I honestly love both of them. My Bobbi Brown Pink Glow is another like all-time classic favorite. This is something, mine's like crumbling to bits. I am actually, I'm like trying to press this in a little bit. I am actually hoping that I could finish this, probably not this year, but I do believe I could easily finish this product next year. Pink Glow is actually something I would consider buying again, probably just in the mini, but it's such a beautiful kind of sheer formula, but gives such a beautiful wet looking finish to the skin. This has been a favorite highlight of mine for several years. That one's gonna stay. I also have the Glow La La highlight, which I recently purchased from Benefit. That one is definitely a lot more intense. Very, very metallic and high shine, but really fun when you're wanting something a little bit more intense. I've really actually enjoyed this highlight. I have my Pixie by Petra. This has obviously more of a golden tone, which I really only use on my shoulders just because it's much too dark for my actual cheeks. I have a pan in both of these though, as you can tell, and I do use the pink shade. I don't know what the pink shade, if that has like a specific name. This is the Glowy Gossamer Duo in the shade Delicate Dew. There is the Pixie Pink. Actually reminds me quite a bit of the shade from the Glow La La. Both very intense, both beautiful. Keeping both. Not off to a great start here. Then I have the Rare Beauty Mesmerize. Again, this one is a little bit more intense. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's like you forget when you haven't used something in a little bit. That is really intense. A little bit darker than some of my other highlights. Like I feel like that's the darkest pink I have. It's more of like a rose gold. But again, very intense. Not decluttering. And then I have the Knobless Skin Glazing in the shade Ozone. Actually, I don't feel like that has really any pink to it. I think it's just the pink packaging kind of makes it look a little pink. Yeah, that is not pink at all. Okay, of my pinks, we are not getting rid of any. Off to a great start. All right, these next 4 are more like, more dark and like rose gold. So I have this one from the Flower Nose Little Angel collection. It's in the shade 2 Paradise Lost. Just beautiful, beautiful packaging. This one I really did enjoy when I was first starting to use it. It is so pretty. That is actually more of a pink. I'm curious how close that, oh, that is so pretty. Just curious how close it is to Mesmerize. Maybe a little bit more pink actually in tone than Mesmerize. I thought maybe I was going to declutter this one from Flower Nose, but that's actually so pretty. I think I need to keep this too. All right, then I have the Artist Couture Summer Haze. This one, I don't know how to describe the shade of this. It's my only loose highlight. I actually love this. This is more of, I almost feel like this has a bit of peachiness to it. I think this one's beautiful too. I've actually loved this one, like shockingly, since I finally like got the nerve to use a powder highlight. I just think it looks really, really natural on the skin. Again, it gives like a really beautiful wet shine. One of the highlighters that I love to reach for in the summer, so keeping. Then I have the Knobless Skin Glazing in the shade Privilege. You can tell this has been a well-loved highlight in my collection as well. There's Privilege. Okay, Privilege actually looks a little bit darker than I remember. And actually, I feel like if I didn't, okay, I really was expecting to keep Privilege, but I actually feel like comparing Privilege to the Artist Couture Summer Haze, I feel like Summer Haze would be more flattering on my cheeks. They both kind of have like a peachiness to it, but Summer Haze is a little bit lighter. So I actually feel like, in a shocking turn of events, I think maybe I could pass along. This is such an old, I love the Knobless Skin Glazings and have for such a long time. I'll likely keep Ozone, but I think maybe I can pass Privilege along. Can you see? Let's just take a moment though. Like I really did absolutely love and adore this highlight, but I actually think maybe, just maybe I can let Privilege go. Then I have my Laura Mercier highlighting powder in Rose Glow. Okay. This is a very subtle highlight, but I really, really loved this. Oh, was it last year or the year prior? I loved this, especially for a more subtle highlight. And I still really enjoy this for a subtle highlight. It's perfect for work when I'm not wanting to like blind my patients that are sitting in the lobby with my highlight bouncing off the walls. So I am definitely going to keep the Laura Mercier Rose Gold. We're doing so well, you guys. We've literally decluttered one. I'm also I'm quickly going to swatch the shade Sunrise from the Sephora collection. This is actually technically a colorful blush glaze, but I was using this as a highlight this summer and I really enjoyed it as a highlight. actually kind of reminds me of of Privilege as well, except for this one's even a little bit deeper. There was something so special about this shade this summer, almost as like a blush topper highlight hybrid. I'm definitely going to be keeping this because I just really enjoyed my time with this one this summer, even though it's obviously a little bit different than what I typically would reach for in a highlight. We're gonna keep that. I think, let me grab these two. Let's go for a few things that I feel like I know I can declutter so that we feel like we're chugging along a little bit in getting rid of a few things. So I have this, which I got from C Beauty Mall last year. This, I don't even know the brand, XIXI, is the Flawless Clean Clear Highlight. Okay, this is really pretty, but it is another like highlight that has glitter in it. Again, I don't know how well you'll be able to see, sorry. It's so dark out today because it's stormy, so my lights are quite bright, but this actually has glitter running throughout it, so I'm going to declutter that, as well as the Girl Crush Moonlight Dance. I got this thinking it actually would be a really beautiful like single shadow. Again, it's a highlight that has, it's more of like a clear transparent base, but it has, actually that is really pretty though. It does have glitter flecks running throughout, and it's just, I don't need it. I'm gonna pass this along. I'm like, before I look too hard. I do think my daughter would really like this one though, so I'll likely be passing it to her. But we're gonna, it has actual, oh, that one is quite pretty though. I'm like, oh, do I need to possibly put this in like a chopping block? No, see, okay, swatched right, well, ugh. Do I want to keep that? A part of me does kind of want to keep that. Okay, this is not going well at all, but I think I am going to keep that. I actually thought highlights was going to go decently, and it's really not. All right, what else do we have in here? We have, okay, let's talk about Ray Rider next from Kaleidos, because this is one that I do think I actually will be decluttering. This is another one that has a bit of kind of glitter running throughout. This is in the shade Space Age. It's also older in my collection. It is a really beautiful kind of golden champagne highlight. Every time I swatch it, I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. But I just never reach for this. Oh, that is really so pretty. But I am ready to pass this along. I'm ready to pass Ray Rider along. This is a new highlight to my collection, so I'm definitely not going to be decluttering this. It's the NARS highlighter, the new light reflecting luminizing powder. I have the shade Electra, and this one is more golden than what I typically go for. But again, just that really beautiful kind of wet shine to the skin. I don't think this is going to be perfect for me right now, although I have been reaching for this in a couple of get ready with me's and still really enjoying this, but I think I will love this shade come the summer. I keep looking at Ray Rider and I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. It's just highlighting powder is pretty stuff. Let's get it together. All right, then I have my REM Miss Mercury, which I also really enjoy for a more subtle highlight. This is another one that I've worn a ton to work. More of a kind of lighter champagne shade. You can really sheer this one out, and I just think it's stunning and more work appropriate. So this one's staying. I will also definitely not be decluttering my Vesca Beauty highlight. This is in the shade Moonlight, one of my favorite highlights of all time, especially my most favorite non-pink highlight. I just love this. I feel like this is just so flattering on the cheeks. A little bit more subtle, and not quite as like, it's almost like a yellow gold. There's something about like the neutral undertone in this that I just feel like is so flattering. And anytime I'm not reaching for a pink, but I don't know what highlighter I want to reach for, I reach for my Vesca. I love this one so much. I really think we're gonna only end up decluttering 3 powder highlights. I also have my Makeup by Mario Pearl. This is the Soft Glow highlight, another more subtle highlight. I do like to have some subtle highlights. This is a beautiful one because it is not pink, but it almost has like a peachy pinkness to it. Oh no, my camera battery's gonna die. The Give Beauty highlight, also a more subtle highlight, but I was obsessed with this when this first came out. And again, kind of has a bit of pinkness to it. That Pearl shade by Makeup by Mario, unless it's just because I need to wash my hands again, like that really does have like a peachiness to it. I kind of like. Anyway, I'm gonna keep both of these. I'm going to keep Milk and Cookies from Ofra in collaboration with Steph Toms. This is a more intense highlight. There are all 3 shades swatched. I really enjoy the lighter shade, but again, not my most reached for, especially like not my everyday shades, but it is a little bit unique to my collection, and there's just something I like about having this, so I'm gonna keep that too. Am I gonna keep Lit? Am I gonna keep Lit? Maybe I can get rid of Lit. Lit from Milk. I don't even know if they make those in, no, I don't think I can declutter that. Too pretty, too smooth, too wet looking. Keeping. I'm not decluttering just to declutter, so I'm sorry, this has not been the most exciting powder highlight declutter. Definitely keeping ABHM Reezy. I just absolutely love that. Ozone, I'm gonna keep 2 from Nabla. I want to keep one of my Nablas, and the fact we are decluttering privilege is honestly shocking. There's Ozone, a little bit lighter and more of like a champagne shade, but beautiful, beautiful baked formula. I do really like that. And then I have my Charlotte Tilbury highlight, which I actually think I bought earlier this year. This is in Champagne Glow. I have literally no fingers left to like properly swatch this. Okay, my camera battery died, so I took the opportunity to actually wash my hands. I want to swatch this again, actually. I'm like, maybe I don't need to keep. It is pretty though. And it actually is like slightly more subtle. Okay, I am gonna keep that. And then the last one I have is Natasha Denona, the IIY Gen highlight, and I have the shade 1 Light. I think I bought this one last year. There's that one. Also so pretty. Okay, I'm going to say I can declutter Girls Crush. I don't need Girls Crush. We've got to at least declutter 4 powder highlights, right? Is there anything else? No. I don't want to declutter just to declutter. And I have definitely like really kind of been into highlight this year, especially like when I am actually wearing makeup. Okay. Okay. We're keeping 22 highlights, powder highlights, decluttering a whopping 4. So that means we are decluttering a total of 12 highlights from my collection and keeping a total of 35, which actually is, we're still decluttering 25%. I'll take it. I will say, what will I say? What will I say? I will say I am hoping that I can kind of work my way through some of these like more liquid highlights next summer. Like I'm hoping I can get through like these 3, and I have no business buying liquid highlights. Like I just need to not buy a liquid highlight. Once I get through these, perhaps then I could see myself replacing 1, but I don't need 4 of these type of liquid highlights in my collection at any given time. And then powder highlights, I need another powder highlight, like I need a hole in my head. But that is gonna wrap it up for the highlight category. Let's move on to something that I personally love. And we're gonna end this portion of this declutter series with face palettes. All right, you guys, I have my face palettes in front of me and I am ready to do some decluttering. I will say, admittedly, I do personally love face palettes. And just looking at some of these, like I just love some of these, but I do want to make a bit of a dent. I want to make a bit of a dent. So let's see what we're able to do. I'm going to start out easy and I'm just going to say I'm keeping all of my NARS face palettes. NARS face palettes are the reason I love face palettes. So I'm not getting rid of any of my NARS face palettes. I have the Hot Escape Cheek 1 and I have the Hot Escape Cheek 2. I have NARS Overlust. I have NARS Exposed. I have the NARS All That Glitters. I have the NARS Rising Star. My Rising Star packaging is broken. It's kind of annoying. And then I have the NARS Orgasm on the beach as well. So I am definitely keeping all of my NARS face palettes. These are like my treasures. I absolutely love these. They're going nowhere. Okay, I can try and move some of these a little bit more in frame then. Okay, more face palettes. I know I'm not gonna declutter, so we're gonna get these out of the way. I have my Evil Eye palette from Hourglass. I really enjoy all 6 of the powders in this palette. I really like Hourglass powders, so I'm also going to keep my ambient lighting palette, the 3 finishing powders, and then I think of the 3 face palettes I have from Hourglass, I think the Ghost Quad is probably my favorite. So this is also going nowhere. Okay. Now it's time to get serious. Now it's like, what can we actually declutter? I feel like I've decluttered this and recluttered this and decluttered this and recluttered it. And every time I reclutter the ABH Nicole Guerrero palette, I don't use it. I feel like I keep recluttering it for like the nostalgia of it, but realistically I cannot tell you the last time I reached for any of these. I have so many other highlighters in my collection that I'd rather be reaching for over these, so I am going to, and I hope that this means I'm decluttering it for the last time. I am going to declutter my ABH Nicole Guerrero palette. My Laura Geller Baked Gelato Swirl palette. This is a tough one. I have a pan in the shade Peach Glow, and I do really like the shade Ballerina as well. Let me swatch. Okay, I'm gonna swatch. There's Ballerina. It is just such a pretty shade. And then there is Peach Glow. Honestly, like Peach Glow, I'm just looking at the Dior, like Rose Shimmer. If I were to swatch those 2 next to one another, Peach Glow definitely has almost like more of a pink base to it, but those 2 really are quite similar. And I am gonna keep my Dior face palette. This is the Dior Backstage Glow face palette in the shade 4 Rose Gold. I really enjoy this face palette. I like all of the shades in here with the exception of the gold, just is not a most reach for me, but this is one that definitely is going to stay. Okay, let me swatch. Like, I really feel like my heart is telling me I don't need to keep, I feel like my heart is telling me I don't need to keep my Laura Geller. I feel like the time has finally come. I feel like it's time to declutter this. This is one of the oldest makeup products in my entire collection. So I think the time has come. We're ready to say goodbye to the Baked Gelato Swirl. That one I'm going to declutter. I will not, however, be decluttering my Lancome Dual Finish highlighting palette. I have pan in all 3 of shades, in all 3 of these pans. I absolutely love this highlighting palette. It is definitely a favorite highlighting palette in my collection, so that one is going to stay. I'm also going to be keeping my Vive Dimension face palette. I really enjoy this. I just feel like this is a really practical face palette for me. I get use out of all 4 shades within this quad, so I am going to be keeping that. Okay, let's talk about my Lorac face palette. This is just, it's so old and the powders in here just are not performing like they used to. It really is just time to say goodbye to this. Although I do really love this, really enjoyed having this in my collection throughout the years. I will also say some of the blushes in here that I really love, like the shade Tea Rose, I feel like is pretty close to like if you were to mix Spacey and Gravity together. Actually, these 2 palettes kind of remind me of one another. I am going to keep my Lunar Beauty Moon Prism palette, but it is time to say goodbye to the Lorac. And with that, I will be keeping the Moon Prism. Okay, let's talk about the Patrick Ta Major Holiday Face Palette. I am going to declutter this. I just cannot with Patrick Ta. He just like really leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I'm not going to be decluttering every product in my collection from him by any means. But I just don't find myself wanting to really reach for this. I just don't really care. And I thought maybe I would reach into these like sparkly shades more, but I just am not. So I will be passing on the Major Holiday palette. My Becca Après-Ski Glow Face Palette. I do plan to keep. This is something that I love the shade Rose Quartz in here, and until I finish Rose Quartz and finish this bronzer, which I am pre-filming this quite a bit, so hopefully this bronzer will actually be done by the end of the year, or potentially I will have depotted it into something else, but I am gonna hold on to this because Rose Quartz, again, is one of my favorite highlights in my entire collection. The Bella Beauté Bar Oracle palette, I think I actually am going to declutter this. So it's 6 very intense highlighty shades. Some of them are like more holographic. I got this before I had replaced my KVD Alchemist palette. My daughter destroyed KVD Alchemist, and I love that for inner corner highlighting. It has it has a pink, a purple, a blue, and a green, and it's perfect for inner corner highlighting when I'm doing colorful looks. So I got this to replace that, but I do have a replacement for that now, so I'm not reaching for this, and I'd rather just pass this along to someone else who could actually love and enjoy it. I'm also ready to move on from my Cali Contour kit, or yeah, Cali Contour, Smashbox Cali Contour face palette. I have loved this so much throughout the years, but it's just another one of those that's just kind of getting old. I feel like the bronzer kind of goes on patchy or just wears away patchily, and the only thing that I really think I'm going to miss out of this palette at this point is the blush shade, but it's not like the blush is so special that I can't replicate this elsewhere in my collection. So I am actually ready to pass on the Smashbox Cali Contour. I am going to be keeping my Kaja Trio. I absolutely love this. I feel like this is really, really practical for me. It's something that I can travel with easily, and something I do like to travel with or toss in an overnight bag. So I'm going to keep this. I'm also going to keep my Natasha Denona Blush and Glow. I actually really love this. Like, I really, really love this, especially for the springtime. I get use out of both shades in here, so that I'm going to keep. And then we have my Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow. This, I feel like I struggle to say I'm going to declutter it because I do have a pan in here. So I've obviously committed, you know, a good chunk of use to this. And it's like the iconic Film Star Bronze and Glow. It's just the mini, but I mean, I remember just this product being such a coveted product, at least in my eyes, and then I got the mini and I was so excited about it. But ultimately, maybe I'll depot this into something else. I just am not excited about the highlight at all, and this is just not a product I am wanting to really reach for anymore. So I think I'm actually going to pass along the Charlotte Tilbury Film Star Bronze and Glow. I totally missed one. I missed my Natasha Denona Glam Face Palette. I'm keeping this. I do really enjoy having this. I like the 5 eyeshadow shades. I don't get the most use out of the blush and highlight specifically. The highlight more than the blush, but I do really like having this in my collection. So this is staying. And so with that, we are decluttering 7 and we are keeping 18. I already put my NARS face palettes away, but I have 18 face palettes that will remain in my collection, and I am decluttering 7. So not my best, but I definitely am ready to say goodbye to the face palettes that I am ready to say goodbye to. And like I said, I love my face palettes, so it's a struggle to even get rid of these, but that, you guys, we are gonna start with my liquid blushes. Some of these I feel like, okay, my daughter and I feel like trade makeup back and forth sometimes. So if you're seeing some things, like I feel like some things I'm like, I swear I've decluttered this, but it's suddenly in my collection again. So if you're seeing products that you thought I decluttered and now they're here, I apologize. But I'm gonna swatch everything out. So I'm hoping to try and get things to be as like colored as possible. And I think maybe, oh, where do I start? Maybe I'll just start actually, okay. I'm gonna start with my Say Dewy Blush in the shade Baby. I really, really like the Say Dewy Blush formula, and I don't have another liquid blush that is this shade. And honestly, I don't know that I have a cream blush this shade. I think the closest cream blush shade I would have to this, closest I think would be Lawless Gumdrop, but I don't think these are gonna be really similar at all. The Say one almost is more like cool tone and almost has a bit of like lavenderness to it, whereas the one from Lawless is almost like a little bit, I don't know if you'd consider that like warm tone, like they're just different. Anyway, I really like this one from Say. I actually am, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, I'm almost done with this one. I am still hoping to finish this one before the end of the year. I've taken the stopper out of this. I was considering possibly picking up the newest like Say mini blush set during the Sephora VIB sale. I didn't. I still kind of want it. This would be the only repeat shade in there. The other shades look kind of like that like tannish sort of blush shade that I really like. And obviously I like Baby, so I'm still possibly thinking about that. We'll see how this blush declutter goes, but I'm gonna keep Baby. Then I think the only other like mauve slash purple blush that I have is this one from Rare Beauty. And this is one that I thought maybe I had decluttered. Oh shoot, the sticker fell off of this one. That, for some reason I feel like that's the shade Encourage, but I could very well be wrong. The Rare Beauty blushes are extremely pigmented. Definitely not, I will also say liquid blush is not my first reach. I honestly think actually I'm pretty confident I'm gonna declutter all of my Rare Beauty blushes. In fact, I thought I had already decluttered all my Rare Beauty, and it's certainly possible. This one is in the shade Love, which is kind of like this burnt orangey red sort of blush shade. And then I also have the shade Joy, which is like a bright dewy coral. Joy I feel like is like kind of the hardest for me to part ways with, but do you see just how pigmented that is? And I'm just not going to be reaching for like an orange blush shade, so I actually am going to declutter all three of my Rare Beauty blushes. I have two of the Say blushes in the shade Chili, and this is where I'm like, I'm pretty sure I had decluttered one of these already. I am going to keep my large Chili and I'm going to declutter the little one. I'll give the little one to my daughter. Chili is a really, really beautiful color. It's kind of like this almost berry toned blush that I just feel like is really, really beautiful for this time of the year. I feel like Chili, it's C-H-I-L-L-Y, is perfect, is like a perfect name because this is like chilly cheeks in my opinion. Like it's cold outside. Yeah, like almost have frostbite. I'm gonna swatch that next to the Huda Beauty Strawberries in Cream shade. I feel like these two might be somewhat similar. I feel like those kind of are the same, except for Chili is obviously a lot more sheer and maybe has a little bit more purple to it, whereas the one from Huda Beauty has more maybe red to it. Or it just might be that this one is more sheer. Those two are pretty similar. I am going to keep both just because this is my only Huda Beauty one, so I would like to keep this around for the formula. And I do like this one. It's not my favorite thing to reach for by any means, but I do like that. I am going to pass along Say Chili to my daughter because I feel like she would enjoy getting use out of that, and I obviously already have a full size. Then I have the shade Poppy from Say. And Poppy is this really beautiful kind of orange. I thought maybe I had decluttered Poppy, but if I did, then I'm definitely going to reclutter this one into my collection. I don't have anything. I think the closest thing that I would have in my cream blushes is maybe this one from Kaja. This is in the shade Peach Cobbler, but I am going to declutter the one. I will ultimately end up decluttering this one. Oh, and those aren't the same. This is more orange. This is almost has a bit more pink to it. I just feel like I don't have anything quite like this, and this is such a beautiful formula to reach for in the summer. And I feel like this is kind of giving just like summer rosy coral cheeks. So I am going to hold on to the shade Poppy from Say. And then the last one I have from Say is the shade Rosy. I'm gonna wipe my hand off again because I want to swatch Rosy next to many of the other ones that I have. So here is Rosy, which you can tell is just a very neutral blush shade. I have NYX Sweet Cheeks here, which I think is going to be a little bit deeper and maybe more cool toned. Yeah, those two definitely are not the same at all. And I don't feel like either of these two are necessarily the same as any of the ones. Okay, that lid is not screwing on. That I've kept so far. I also have the Vive Sunset Blush Balm, the Luminous Blush Balm. I really enjoy this. It is very sheer. I have the shade Rosa. And this one again is kind of that like more nudie, neutral sort of blush shade. Almost like the warm toned version of the NYX Sweet Cheeks. And then the rosy shade from Say is definitely the most like peachy in tone. I have these two from What's Up Beauty. These are the Rose Hippity Matte Liquid Blushes. I have the shade Heirloom as well as Oceana. I'm gonna swatch Heirloom. I actually think is more of, well, gosh, I feel like maybe Heirloom is, it's probably more pink than the NYX. Yeah, that is. Okay, those are not exactly the same. I feel like this one is kind of close to Rosy as well. Okay. I feel like Rosy from Say is pretty similar to Oceana. Or wait, no. This one was Heirloom. And then I have Oceana, which is, for some reason, this is like remind me of like almost like a concealer lip, but it's like a concealer blush, but it's, but it does have like a bit of coraliness to it. It's a bit orangey. Okay, I definitely know I'm keeping the NYX Sweet Cheeks blush. If I didn't say, this is in the shade Nude Tude. I'm gonna keep that. I'm also definitely keeping the Vive Sunset blush. Okay, and then I feel like I'm kind of torn on Say Rosy. I don't know why though. I feel like that's just a little bit more warm than I would typically like. Like if I was going for a warm blush like this, I would go for something like the shade Poppy over this. And then I also just, okay, so the What's Up Beauty formula is matte, and you can see it does dry down matte. That's actually not my favorite at all, and I don't really love a matte blush. I think I'm definitely going to declutter Oceana, which is this shade right here. I really don't like, I actually, now that I'm looking at this on my hand, I have tested these on my cheeks each once with each shade. Now that I'm looking at that, I'm like, if I am going for a cream or liquid blush, I'm wanting like a dewy finish at bare minimum. I feel like I'm never going for like a matte blush. So I actually am going to declutter both of my What's Up Beauty Rose Hippity just because that is not my preferred finish in a blush. And then I think I will go ahead and keep the Say Rosy, see if I get some use out of it this summer, and if I don't, potentially I would think about decluttering that shade next summer. All right, that just leaves me with these three left. So I have the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Bronzer. This is in the shade Kiss of Copper. I am going to for sure be decluttering this. I don't love this. It's just way too, it is very coppery, but that is not a flattering shade for me. That is not gonna work for me, so this is definitely getting decluttered. Then I have the Charlotte Tilbury Pinkgasm Light Wand, which I think is really beautiful. Definitely gives a beautiful glow. And I do really like that shade. And then I also have the Bite Beauty Daycation blush that I feel like I'm so close to finishing. Oh, maybe, okay. It's just so hard to squeeze out, and now I got way too much. I'm like, I feel like I'm down to my last little bit here. I really should try and finish this before the end of the year. I am gonna keep this one as well, just because I'm so close to finishing this shade. It is really pretty. Dang, okay. The way that the Charlotte Tilbury is hitting the light, I'm like, I need to be reaching for that more. I am gonna keep both of these. I think Melon Mojito will be done. It should be done by the end of the year, but very soon. And then the Charlotte Tilbury one is also really pretty. So I'll keep both of those. So that means I actually feel like we did okay for liquid blush. I'm decluttering 7 and I am keeping 9. So not quite half, but pretty darn close. And I'll be honest, I feel like I could finish both of these before the end of the year. So then it would technically be like an even split, right? Anyway, you can tell I have like a favorite blush formula. I really like the Say liquid blushes, but again, decluttering 7, keeping 9. All right, moving on to cream blush. I think I have 30 cream blushes. I will say I do like cream blush a little bit more than liquid blush. I have my Patrick Ta duos here. It has a cream and a powder just because I want to be able to potentially swatch amongst other things. I'm going to start with these two from Kaja. These are the Dewy Bars. I did really enjoy this formula, but what I found is that it just melts. Like, even if it's not really sitting in the heat, and it just becomes so messy. So I actually am going to be decluttering for sure both of these Dewy Bars that I have remaining. And then I'm going to start maybe with Phytosurgeons next, just because I think I will keep both of these, and maybe I can swatch similar things amongst these two. So I have the Phytosurgeons Skin Spark Cream Blush in the shade Condensate, which is this really beautiful kind of cool toned blush. I don't think I have anything quite like this. I was definitely inspired to buy this because Tom from Hope Mess Tom talks about this all the time. Kind of talks about it as being kind of like a bruisey blush, which I was like, I want a bruisey blush. And then I also have the shade Sear, which is different, but also kind of has that kind of cool toned aspect to it. I am definitely keeping both of these. I really enjoy the Phytosurgeons blush formula. And actually looking at everything, I don't necessarily think I have anything super similar. I'm curious to swatch Rosé and Brunch from Danessa Myricks. Oh, that's definitely gonna be a lot more warm toned. Ignore everything I just said. And the only other like real, like, no, I really don't think I have anything like either of these two in my collection. Oh, except for my Rose Ink one. This is in the shade Camellia. This is also kind of like that cooler toned purple, but obviously still very different. I am gonna keep my Rose Ink one too. I really like the Rose Ink cream formulas. I also really like their cream highlight. I think I have a couple possibly similar shades in the Lawless formula. So I'm gonna open all of my Lawless blushes up here. Okay, I feel like a lot of my Lawless blushes look quite similar to one another, and I definitely don't need to keep all of my Lawless blushes. I'm gonna swatch this shade. This is Rosebud. I'm just curious how this looks swatched next to some of these. As you can tell, no you can't. As you can tell, the Lawless blush formula is more of like a matte blurring formula, which I know I did say I like a glowier cheek. I do like the Lawless formula. I think it's really forgiving and easy to work with, but like I said, I definitely don't need all of these. I feel as though I'm gonna swatch this one too. This is in the shade Cheeky. There's Cheeky. Oh, Cheeky is definitely a little bit more unique to the blushes in my collection, but I also just don't feel like this is necessarily a flattering shade on my cheeks. So I'm definitely going to declutter Cheeky from Lawless. That is that more like lavender tone, or like purpley pink. I don't know how to best describe that. Then I will swatch, let's see, this is Angel. Angel's just very like nudie. Very nude. I think maybe I like Angel a little bit more than Rosebud though, personally. It might just be a little bit more like neutral in tone to Rosebud. Then I also have Duchess, which Duchess actually looks like it could be a bit unique to my collection. There's Duchess, but I feel like all of those are like relatively similar. Looking at Duchess and Rosebud, I'm like, which of the two? I'm for sure gonna keep Angel, which is this one right here. I feel like maybe I don't need Rosebud or Duchess though. Just because it's not my favorite finish. Like, I'd rather something a little bit dewier, like the top row, or like a Merit Flush Bomb. Okay, I'm going to declutter Duchess and Rosebud for sure from Lawless. I do want to swatch out the Danessa Myricks Rosé and Brunch now too. Oh, whoa, that's creamier than I thought it was gonna be. There's Rosé and Brunch. That actually reminds me quite a bit of Duchess. Yeah, those are quite similar. I am definitely going to keep this one from Danessa Myricks. I like that it's a cute little mini. I haven't actually gotten to use this one on my cheeks yet because I recently got this. I did used to have a different like full size of the Danessa Myricks blush. It was very pigmented and it just wasn't the best shade for me, so I decluttered that one, but I would like to at least keep this for the time being. So I'm gonna put that in the save pile. I'm curious how close this Le Bon Bon from Merit. Oh, that's maybe more pink. Oh, that's way more pink. Okay, ignore that. I'm also just gonna swatch tan lines from Rhode just because I know this is more of a nudie blush. There's tan lines, which I'm definitely keeping. I really, really enjoyed this shade. And it's definitely like a little bit warmer than the other shades that I kept. Okay, I'm gonna open up all of my Patrick Ta duos so you can kind of see the shades that I have in these duos. And then I'll also open up my Fenty Cheeks Out. Okay, I'm gonna do orangey shades next. So that means I'm gonna swatch Lawless Starburst, which has historically been my favorite shade of the Lawless blushes. There it is, swatched right there. Just a really light kind of orangey coral, and because it's so blurring, I really do like this one, especially for just like a lighter pinched cheek, kind of coral cheek look in the summer. The other oranges I have, those are more, these are not similar, but let me swatch this one from Patrick Ta. Do We Know Her? All right, there is that coral, which is also really pretty. I actually am kind of curious about swatching this next to that Say Dewy blush I kept. Okay, here's the Say Dewy blush in Poppy. I just want to see how similar all of these orangey shades are. Okay, those two, that one is almost a little bit more pink and a little bit dewier, maybe. But those two are quite similar. And then I also have this one in She's the Moment. There is She's the Moment. Little bit more orangey maybe. I think I can declutter this Patrick Ta duo because this is so similar. And honestly, like, I feel like I have the same vibe happening. So I think I can let go of Do We Know Her from Patrick Ta. I am just kind of curious about Strawberry Drip from Fenty next to these ones, just because I feel like, okay, the Fenty is a little bit more of like a reddish strawberry pinky color, but they all kind of give the same vibe. Why do I feel like I like this better than this? Okay, maybe actually I'll keep this duo from Patrick Ta, but then I feel like I definitely can let go of this one from Say. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So ultimately then I decluttered, would it be 8 from Say and kept 8? Oh, equal split. Woo! Winning equal split my liquid blushes. Okay, so that means from this bunch that we just swatched, I am keeping both of these from Patrick Ta, at least until we swatch my powders. I'll do that too, but currently keeping She's the Moment and Do We Know Her, as well as Lawless Starburst is also staying right now. And I'm going to keep the Fenty Cream Blush in Strawberry Drip. I really like that. Okay, let me swatch these then. Okay, so I have the Fenty Glow Cheeks Out, which I feel like I've decluttered and recluttered, but it could also be a different shade. There's Fenty Glow. It's a really beautiful, very nude, like warm nude sort of blush shade. Then I have She's So LA from Patrick Ta, which I decluttered and regretted and recluttered this one. And actually I was really enjoying reaching for this one earlier this year. I'm gonna swatch that one just a little bit heavier. Okay, those are kind of similar, but this is, I mean, this one is a little bit lighter. I feel like this you could almost get away with as like a highlight. And then I have, this one's a little bit different, but still kind of the same. Not Too Much from Patrick Ta. I'm gonna swatch that one a little bit heavier too. As you can tell, this one has definitely more like of a pinky brownie nude, whereas this is like true brown. Okay, I do feel like I can let go of the Fenty Cheeks Out blush in the shade Fenty Glow. I feel like that's just not Actually, I don't know. I could actually see myself maybe really liking that in the summer. There is a bit of like sparkle running throughout that. I'm curious, okay, how close is it to the Merit Flush Balm in Terracotta? Oh, those are quite similar, but that one has that bit of glow to it. I do not need all three of these. Oh, what do I want to get rid of? This is so tough though, because I do love a blush like this. Or yeah, blush. Okay, I'm definitely keeping both of the Patrick Ta duos. I really like those. But I think I can maybe let go of the Terracotta shade. There is something that's like just making me really want to keep the Fenty Glow. So I'm going to keep the Fenty Cheeks Out in Fenty Glow. And then I think I will let go of the Merit Flush Balm in Terracotta. Oh, I forgot, in my orange blushes, I also have the shade Golden Hour from Melt. I'm definitely going to keep this one. This one is really glowy, but I do really, really like that. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I mean, maybe I could layer these two together. I'm like, do I really need Starburst? Because I would rather reach for something glowier, but maybe I could mix those two together for just like a more pigmented glow. That could be really pretty. Okay, I'm keeping both Lawless, Starburst, and the Melt Golden Hour. And then moving on to my pinks. Okay, I have the Makeup by Mario blush stick in Earthy Pink. I really love this blush stick, especially when I first got it. I was obsessed with this. So I really like having this in my collection. I don't necessarily know that this is going to be similar to any of my other pink shades. This is Fenty Cheeks Out and Petal Poppin'. I feel like I can let go of the Lawless Gumdrop. I just don't necessarily see myself, like I'd rather reach for the one that I swatched, oh, the Say Baby. I know that they're not the same shade, but I'd much rather reach for Say Baby over this. So I actually am ready to let go of this one from Lawless as well. I am going to keep both the Fenty Cheeks Out in Petal Poppin' as well as the Makeup by Mario. However, from RMS Beauty, I have the Lip to Cheek in the shade Spell. My like fingers are stained at this point. That is such a beautiful nudie blush too. I'm going to swatch it next to Beverly Hills from Merit. I don't think they're going to be the same, and I would keep both because I'm almost done with Merit Beverly Hills. No, they're definitely not the same. I am going to keep Merit Beverly Hills. I'm working on panning this. I don't necessarily think I'm going to pan this by the end of the year, but I think that's such a beautiful everyday blush. And I am going to keep the Lip to Cheek from RMS as well. I actually do really enjoy this blush shade as well. I don't know if you can tell, but I have like a pretty decent dip going on that, especially for a cream blush for me. So then that just really brings me to the rest of my Merit Flush Bombs. I have the 3 from the holiday set this year. Merit has sent all of these to me, just full disclosure. And then I have the shade Fox. Okay, let's swatch Fox. Ugh, I actually really do love the Merit Flush Bombs. So there's Fox. I also have the shade Persimmon, which Persimmon is definitely a lot more orangey. I feel like I don't need Persimmon, but I definitely am going to be keeping Fox. Okay, I'm gonna let go of Persimmon. I have the shade Redux, R-E-D-U-X. I hope I'm saying that correct. There is that one swatched. I like these cute little minis. That one's really pretty too. I'm definitely going to keep this. I have the shade Postmodern, which is a little bit deeper. I used this in a Get Ready With Me that never saw the light of day. It was really pretty, but it was quite pigmented. The thing with these are though, you can really sheer them out. Okay, I feel like I do want to keep that. And then I have the shade Le Bonbon, which is this really fun pink. Definitely not going to be an everyday reach for me, but I honestly feel like I might really love this on the lips next summer too. I really liked pink lips this year. And so I'm gonna keep that one as well. I'm gonna keep these 4, and these are the 2 Flush Bombs I'm getting rid of. Okay, we definitely did not do quite as well with the cream blush declutter. I am keeping 22 and I am going to be decluttering 8. I do really like my cream blushes, like I really do, and I don't want to declutter just to declutter. I'm sitting here being like, I should get rid of something more. The only other thing I'm thinking of is possibly like, do I really need Lawless Angel? Let me actually, okay, wait, let me swatch Lawless Angel. I'm gonna get a little bit of a heavier swatch. There is Lawless Angel swatched. I'm gonna swatch that next to the shade out of the Not Too Much duo. I'm gonna get rid of, just cause 22 cream blushes is way too many for me to have. I'm also gonna declutter am I decluttering just to declutter though? I don't think I'll remember. Like I don't think, cause I also do have the Lip to Cheek, which is not gonna be the same. But honestly, I do love like a nudie blush like that. Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. I can declutter Lawless Angel and it's gonna be fine. Okay, also decluttering Lawless Angel. And then the only other thing I wanted to revisit for one moment was the Patrick Ta Do We Know Her? Okay, swatching this again. And then I'm gonna swatch that. Wait. No, I'm doing this wrong. Okay. The correct way, the way that Patrick says to do it. Powder and then blush. The thing is my daughter's been begging for one of my Patrick Ta duos, so I feel like I should just declutter one to her. I'm gonna do it. I'm decluttering She's the Moment as well, because then my blushes like more easily fit my organizer too. Okay, so 2 additional declutters will put us at getting rid of 10 and keeping 20. So still didn't do the best, but you know what? All of my blushes that I'm keeping, my cream blushes that I'm keeping, fit in this little organizer. I'm taking that as a win. 20 cream blushes are staying, 10 are leaving. All right, on to the most daunting task. We have my powder blushes, and I believe, if I counted correctly, I have 54 powder blushes sitting in front of me, which is actually insane. But I also love my powder blushes so much, so I have a feeling this is going to be so difficult. I'm going to do my best to sort them by color. I feel like I have a lot of like the same colors. Oh, I feel so overwhelmed. This is going to be so tough. Okay, let me start with, I'm going to start with like my nudie blushes, because that's like my favorite type of blush to wear, is a very nude blush, and that'll probably be the most difficult portion of my blushes to declutter. I have 54 powder blushes, but then I have all of my blushes in my face palettes too. I would love if I could even get my blushes down to 40. I don't know if that's possible, but let's see what we can do. Okay, it's kind of difficult because I feel like I have like brown nudes, and then I have some that are more like peachy coral nudes, and then I definitely have a lot of pink nudes. I've really tried to keep this to more like neutral brown nudes, but like just take it or leave it on some of these. Here are all of my blushes. I don't know how to like best do this. I think maybe I'll start with ones that like I feel like I know for sure I love and don't see myself parting ways with, because then I can swatch them or really try and compare them against ones that I'm more on the fence about. So like my MAC Warm Soul, I absolutely love this blush. It doesn't show up like super impactful on the cheeks, but I really like this even sometimes for like neutralizing a blush shade or adding just a little bit of a glow to the cheeks. So MAC Warm Soul, I'm definitely not going to be getting rid of. I'm just gonna swatch kind of up my arm here. I hope you guys will be able to see it. There's that. And actually, see, this one is nude, but I also feel like that comes across almost like a little bit peachy. So like I could have definitely pulled out, and maybe I'll include this too, I could have pulled out the Urban Decay Fleshed Out. Okay, Warm Soul we know is staying. I do also really love my Buxom Facials. You guys know this. I just don't know if this is like getting to be too old. There's definitely like a little bit of hard pan in it, but I definitely pulled this out several times this year and it worked just fine on my cheeks. there is Buxom Seychelles. Definitely a little bit different than Warm Soul. Warm Soul is definitely a little bit warmer. Actually, this looks more warm tone swatch right here than it typically looks on my cheeks, but I am going to keep Buxom Seychelles. This is like a forever blush favorite. I honestly don't know if you can get these blushes or if they make these blushes anymore, but it's been a long time favorite. So that one is going to stay. Then I would say I also really love my Laura Mercier Fresco highlight, or not highlight, blush. This one is definitely going nowhere. Again, it kind of just gives that like glowy, nudie, sort of fleshy blush to the cheeks. It's definitely giving the same vibe as these three, but I feel like, and maybe you can't tell as noticeably on camera, but I feel like in person I do notice differences amongst them. I actually feel like these two are closer than I would have thought, but I, again, on the cheeks feel like Buxom Seychelles reads more cool and these two read more warm. These are like my favorite three nude blushes, so those are gonna stay. And then the next two that I love would probably be MAC So Natural, which I also don't plan to get rid of. And this is actually more of like a cream to powder blush, but I love MAC So Natural, and that one is definitely the lightest of all of them, and almost a little bit more peachy warm even than MAC Warm Soul. I'm definitely keeping MAC So Natural. Then I would say it would be this one from Kosas. This is in Dreamland. This is one where I feel like it might come across more brownie nude, although I do feel like we're kind of there's definitely some that are more, okay, wait, let me swatch that right there. No, okay, of all of them, this definitely has more pinkness to it, but still reads a little peachy. I really love the Kosas blush formula as well because it has a bit of a sheen to it. I feel like of all of these that are swatched, the ones it reads closest to would be MAC Warm Soul, but they definitely are different. Again, I feel like this one is almost a little bit more pinky. I am going to keep Kosas Dreamland. Okay, before we move out of like the nudes like this, I'm gonna swatch Becca Wild Honey. Becca Wild Honey, I feel like I've tried to get rid of so many times and I always end up recluttering it into my collection. But I will say this year I did notice, I feel like it really is getting to the point where it's really dry and I don't always feel like it blends the best onto the cheeks. So there is MAC Wild Honey. I feel like MAC Wild Honey is actually pretty close to Laura Mercier Fresco, except for Fresco has a bit of that glow to it. And I actually definitely prefer a glowier cheek to a more mattified cheek. So I think it really, really is time to let go of this and not reclutter it into my collection, but to let go of Becca Wild Honey for good. All right, then I have a couple more like true nudes here. I actually do like this Tarte Concept. This is another one I feel like I have decluttered several times and then end up bringing back into my collection. I feel like I've decluttered it just knowing like, oh, the panner in me like knows it will take forever to get through. But that is not the mentality to have. Like I should not keep a blush because I feel like I'm not gonna finish it because there are several blushes I'm not gonna finish. Okay, Tarte Concept actually reminds me probably the most of Kosas Dreamland. In fact, I want to swatch those like right next to each other. Okay, this one's a little bit lighter and has a glow. This one doesn't have a glow. I definitely prefer a glow, as I've been saying, but I do really still like Concept. There's something about it maybe that reads, I don't know if I would say even just like a bit more neutral. There's something in me that's wanting to keep Tarte Concept right now, so I will do that. All right, next up I have the Tower 28 Get Set blush in Long Beach Iced Tea. This I was not the biggest fan of this year. This was almost like too mattifying for my cheeks. I just did not feel like that looked flattering. In concept, this should be like an absolute favorite. It is more of like a brownie nude sort of blush shade, but it's just too matte on my cheeks and I don't love it. So I am gonna be passing along the Tower 28. I also did try the Urban Decay Fleshed Out blush this year. Not a great swatch at all, but I do feel like I'm like getting in there with the blush powder. This is a really light shade. I feel like as I look at all these, or as I look at this compared to the rest of the blushes, it looks like a mattified version of the Kosas one, maybe a little bit more coral, and this one's like a little bit pinkier, but I don't think I would miss having this in my collection. This is not a blush that I bought and then was using and was like, oh my gosh, I want to keep using this at all times. So I'm going to declutter the Urban Decay as well. And I actually think I'm going to wipe off my arms because I think the rest are maybe a little bit darker when we get to the nudes, except for this one from Kaleidos. This is like a true like nude. Oh, but it is a little bit more pinky. Okay, I might wipe everything off my arms and swatch this again when we get to the more pinky shades. Okay, I have a couple of what I feel like are like true nude pinks. Actually, no, I'm not getting into the pinks yet. Okay, I have what I consider to be maybe like darker brown nudes, although this might read more like warm. This reads almost highlightery because it's so glowy. This is from Iconic London. It's Kissed by the Sun. I had decluttered this, then I pulled it back out. I actually meant to buy a different shade of this. I pulled it back out and used it a couple times this summer and actually really enjoyed this. Again, I'm liking a glowier cheek, so I kind of liked this as almost like a blush topper with something like MAC Warm Soul. I am going to hang on to the Iconic London for now. Then I also have this one from Give Beauty. This is in the shade Stars Align, and this is a blush duo. So there's a matte and a more glowy blush. There's the matte. Again, just kind of that beautiful like brown sort of blush shade, but a little bit darker. And then there is the glowy blush. I almost feel like all three of these could work in like a trio together. Like we have a matte, a satin, and then like a really glowy powder. I really like these tones, especially when I want something that is like a little bit of a deeper brown nude in the summertime when I have more of a tan. I am going to keep the Give Beauty Duo. And then I have two more like brownie nudes. I have MAC, the MAC Extra Dimension in Hushed Tone. This is one of the newer blushes to my collection, and this is more of a blush topper again. But I've been liking a blush topper because, again, I like a glowier cheek. Again, I kind of feel like all these, like these three could also be a quad together. But that's good because then I could use this as a blush topper. I'm going to keep this one as well. It's glowier than these two, but it's a different tone than the RMS. And then I also have the Pillow Talk, the Cheek to Cheek and Pillow Talk Intense. Okay, so for Pillow Talk Intense, we have the matte blush on the outer part of the blush. I usually always just swirl my brush together. We have the middle kind of glowy part, and then if we mix them together, which is what I do, that's the shade that we get. I'm just like looking through my blush collection to see if I feel like if I have anything that's similar to a shade like this. And I don't think that I do. I have the Bare Minerals highlighting blush in the shade Mauve Glow. I actually think I'm going to declutter Mauve Glow. I'll swatch this really quick. This is just, again, kind of like a blush topper slash highlight, but it's too dark for what I typically go for. And I also just feel like it's like too dark of a blush topper to be flattering on me. It's not anywhere close to these. I honestly don't feel like I have anything crazy close to the Pillow Talk Cheek to Cheek. I'm wondering maybe if the CL Blaze blush, oh yeah, maybe the CL Blaze would be like the closest to it, but I feel like it most closely matches just like the matte part of this. I am going to keep the Pillow Talk Intense. I do like having this in my collection. It is a little bit deeper, but I don't have a ton of super deep blushes, and I do like to have something like this from time to time. Since I already have it pulled out and swatched, I will say I'm definitely going to let go of the Bare Minerals highlighting blush in Mauve Glow. I would be interested in trying this formula just in a lighter shade, but the mauve just is not gonna work for me. I will also be keeping the Ciel blush. This is very, very new to my collection. Since I have these more like ready blushes swatched up my arm at the moment, I am going to swatch out these 3 really quick, and maybe actually this one too from Nabla. Let me swatch this one from Nabla. This is in Independence. This is what Independence looks like. It's almost more of like a, this one might be a little bit more pinky brown. I love the Nabla blushes. Okay, that one is a little bit more pinky. I might save that to swatch with my pinky blushes. I have this one that I got in the Revolve Beauty Advent Calendar. It's a mini Pat McGrath blush. This is in Paradise Venus. I'm gonna swatch that maybe like this way just because I'm curious how close it is. Oh, it does look pretty similar to that Cheek to Chic, the darkest shade in the Cheek to Chic. Maybe this one's like has slightly more of like a pink tone to it, but those are relatively similar. I'm still gonna keep the Charlotte Tilbury, and I am gonna keep this one from Pat McGrath. I haven't even tried this one on my cheeks yet, but that's definitely something to keep in mind for the future. Okay, then I have these 2 from Kosas. This one might actually be better suited to swatch with the pinks. I was just kind of curious about this one. This is in Spellbound. Spellbound, I can swatch way up here. Okay, maybe that's more pinky than I was anticipating it was going to be. Okay, I'll save that for the pinks. Okay, so oh, and then I have my like 2 like nudie nudes. I swear I have another Kaleidos I can swatch with like the nudie nudes. Okay, I have these 3. I'm gonna swatch NARS Behave first just because of these 3. NARS Behave is the one I see myself keeping the most. There's NARS Behave, and this is where we kind of enter the more like nudes, but like more of like a pinky brownie nude. This is like a true, almost like neutral nude blush. I really like NARS Behave. That one is definitely staying. Then I have these 2 from Kaleidos. I don't know the names of these because they're not on the back. This is such a nice creamy formula. There's that one right there. That is such a light blush. It's almost like the color of my skin. And then I also have this one, which is also very light, but a little bit more like cool toned. Also just like kind of the color of my skin. I feel like I've like gone back and forth on both of these. Okay, I realized that you've been able to see my face on that. I think of these 2, I'm gonna declutter this one, which is a little bit more cool toned. I know you can barely see both of those. I'm going to, it's so tough. I'm like, is it worth keeping this one? Sometimes it is nice though to have just like the slightest bit of a pinched cheek. So I'm gonna keep this one from Kaleidos for now, and just kind of see if it even shows up at all on my cheeks. It's been a while since I've reached that, but I am gonna declutter this one. I'm gonna keep these swatched out just as we move into the pinks, but of all of the blushes that we just chatted about, I decluttered 5 and I'm keeping 14. So not off to the best start, but decluttering 5 means we're under 50 blushes. So we're gonna take that as a win. All right, I have a couple other really light pink blushes. I have this one from What's Up Beauty. This is the Cheek Terry Baked Pressed Powder Blush in the shade 10 Peaceful Pisa. And this is like one of those like marbled textures. I actually really like the bronzer that kind of has the same marbled formula. So there is the shade 10. That is really pretty. Again, very light though. Slightly more pink than this, whereas this is more nude. I'm just wondering, like, I just feel like this is almost gonna read more as a powder, this blush, and I just don't think that's gonna actually work for me. So I think I actually am going to end up decluttering that second blush from Kaleidos, which is swatched right there. This one is really beautiful and very light, and I think sometimes it is nice to have a really light, but then I'm going back on this one and I'm like, ugh, I'm struggling. Okay, I'm putting this one back in the keep for now. Maybe this is one that I need to like chopping block. This one I'm thinking about. All right, I have the Bare Minerals bronzer in Kiss of Pink, and then I also have the Kosas Blush is Life in Bliss. I'm definitely keeping the Kosas Blushes Life and Bliss. I'm currently working on seeing how much I can pan in this blush this year, and I've really enjoyed having the Kosas blush. You can barely see that. I think this is so beautiful though. This, I actually feel like, is really similar to the Cheek to Chic, but this just has a little bit more of a glow to it, which I definitely prefer more of a glow. So that leads me to believe I can likely declutter the lightest Cheek to Chic in the shade 10. I think I'm okay with doing that, but obviously keeping the Blushes Life. This is the shade Bliss. Then I have Kiss of Pink from Bare Minerals. There is Kiss of Pink, and that almost has a little bit more of that like browniness to it. I really, really like the Bare Minerals bronzers, so I'm definitely going to be keeping Kiss of Pink from Bare Minerals. I do want to swatch the What's Up Beauty, the shade 220. This is Serene Sienna. There's Serene Sienna. Okay, that's pretty. Again, these are really light. Definitely still obviously reminds me a bit of, quite a bit actually, of the Kosas, but this is just maybe has a little bit more pigment to it. I actually feel like this one is really pretty, and I would like to keep at least one of the What's Up Beauty cheek cherries, so I think I'm going to keep shade 20, which again is Serene Sienna. All right, some more pink ones that I have. I have the Makeup by Mario blush in Desert Rose. This is one of my favorite blushes in my entire collection, so this one is definitely going to stay. And this one again is almost more of like that brownie sort of nude. Yeah, I really, really like that one. I also have, actually, let me see what the Gucci, I'm not gonna declutter this one either, but I feel like these two might be similar. I have the Gucci blush in the shade Rosy Beige. There's Rosy Beige. Okay, Rosy Beige is actually more cool toned than a lot of the other ones that I've swatched. I really love the Gucci blush as well. So those two, Makeup by Mario and Gucci, are both staying. I also have the Ofra Chicklet blush duo. This is the one that was in collaboration with Samantha March. This is one that has, again, kind of three blush options. So with this one, we can either do a matte blush, the more shimmery blush, or you can mix them together. And I had pulled out Chicklet earlier this year, just trying to see if I still enjoyed this blush. And I really, really did. I'm looking again and I'm like, okay, the matte pink side of this, you guys, I'm going so back and forth on this one from Kaleidos. I really think I can declutter this one. It's literally the color of my skin. This is more of a powder. And I'm like, this is a little bit darker, yes, but it still has that like light pink feel to it. So I'm gonna declutter this one from Kaleidos officially. And then I am going to be keeping my Chicklet blush from Ofra in collaboration with Samantha March. I feel like we can do these two next. I'm definitely going to be keeping both of these. These are like pretty unique shades to my collection. Actually, I don't know if the YSL one is that unique, but this is in the shade Nude Lavalier. I think to my singles, this is pretty unique. I'm like, I don't really have any single blushes that are quite like that. It's very glowy again, but I really like a glowy blush. And then I have the Very Valentino Eye to Cheek, and this is in the shade 3, which is like something Roma, I believe. And this one, I don't have anything like this in my blush collection. It's this really fun kind of lavender, cool toned lavender blush shade. I'm definitely keeping this as well. I love my little like luxury treasures, but I wanted to swatch those two because I definitely don't think I have anything similar to those in my collection to kind of swatch against. I might quickly move into my bright pink blushes and just knock those out here really quick because I'm feeling like I don't know how to sort the rest of my blushes. So I do have 3 of this like kind of just bright pink blush type of shade. I'm gonna swatch the Kosas first because this is the one I'm definitely most likely to keep. And the Kosas one is in the shade Butterflies. There's Butterflies swatched. Really, really beautiful kind of baby bubblegum pink sort of blush shade. Has a beautiful glow to it. The other 2 blushes I believe are both mattes. This one is from Flower Nose. It's in the Midsummer Fairy Tales collection. It's in the shade Dreaming Butterfly. Did I say this was a butterfly shade? Yeah, butterflies. Interesting. So there's that one swatched. Again, that like bright pink, kind of Barbie pink feel. This one is pretty powdery to the touch, but very creamy. It's just really pigmented and you can go pretty overboard kind of quickly on the hands. So this blush makes me nervous. I also have this one from Kaleidos, and I don't know the name of the Kaleidos one. So the Kaleidos one is the lightest of all of them. Definitely has more of like a pastel feel to it. I definitely do not need all three of these. I don't reach for a bright hot pink blush very frequently. I honestly feel like I can just keep Kosas Butterflies and I will be just fine. Again, I don't love a matte anything really anymore. So I'm going to declutter both the Flower Nose and the Kaleidos, which are these two up here. Sorry you guys, I totally forgot about Persona Bubble, which is also a bright pink like this. Let me swatch Persona Bubble. Ooh, is Bubble and Butterflies, are those like the exact same? There's Bubble, there's Butterflies. Okay, I'm gonna swatch Butterflies above Bubble. They're very close, that's for sure. Very, very close. Oh, I feel like I shouldn't justify keeping both of those. But which do I keep? I feel like maybe I'll keep the Kosas one just because it has a little bit more of a glow to it and has that baked formula. Oh, it's gonna be so sad to declutter Persona Bubble, but I think I really never reach for a blush shade like this. It's very, very rare. I don't need to keep both. Those look like pretty much identical dupes. Okay, I'm gonna keep the Kosas in the shade Butterfly, and then I'm going to declutter Persona Bubble. Okay, I have a few more like pretty glowy, lighter pink blushes here. Maybe that I will do next. Can you tell I'm struggling with like sorting these? All right, let's see. From Rare Beauty, I have the shade Cheer, which looks like this. There's Cheer swatched. This is a very, very, very metallic-y, glowy blush, but I love Cheer, especially like layered on top of another blush. Again, I like a glowier cheek, so this is something that I really enjoy. I'm definitely going to be keeping Cheer. I want to swatch that next to the shade Truth from Nabla. I'm just curious. I don't necessarily think they're the same. I also love Truth from Nabla. This has been like a favorite blush for a very long time. There's Truth, and Truth is definitely darker than Cheer, which makes me happy because then I'm like, okay, I feel like I can justify keeping both of them. But both of them kind of have that similar vibe in that they are both very, very glowy blushes. All right, then I have from RMS Beauty, I have the shade French Rosé. And this blush is called the Redimension Hydra Blush. This is actually something I either decluttered and recluttered or almost decluttered and then put in a chopping block and realized how pretty I think that is. I think when I was thinking about decluttering this, I wasn't as into a glowy cheek, and now I'm just so into a glowy cheek that I'm like, give me all the glow. That is definitely different than those two. Again, still has that heavy kind of glow and shine to it, but it's definitely a lot more pink than these other two. I'm absolutely keeping that. And then recently I picked up one of the evocative blushes from Singe Beauty. This one isn't going to be quite as glowy, but this has a really beautiful satin glowy shine to it too. And the shade I have in the Singe Beauty blush is Riveting Rhubarb. There's Riveting Rhubarb swatched right there. Oh, I feel like the Cheer blush from Rare Beauty would like layer so beautifully on Riveting Rhubarb, or honestly any of these. I really like this blush from Singe Beauty. I would definitely be interested in picking up more shades. I am going to be keeping Riveting Rhubarb. And then from Hourglass, I have the shade Sublime Flush. I really enjoy the Hourglass formula. There's Sublime Flush. It's a little bit lighter in tone than Riveting Rhubarb and kind of just gives that very light kind of satin glow. Again, not quite as heavy, but still does have just the most beautiful finish to it. I'm definitely keeping Sublime Flush. Okay, I missed an opportunity to swatch my MAC Extra Dimension and Fairly Precious with all those other glowy blushes, but I'm gonna swatch this really quick. My arm is like dyed pink. There is Fairly Precious. As you can tell, kind of gives that kind of highlightery vibe as well. I actually really, really love Fairly Precious as a blush topper as well. So Fairly Precious is staying. Just to give a quick update as we head into the final stretch, I have currently kept 28 blushes, decluttered 10. I don't know what's gonna happen in this final stretch here. And I also like don't really know where we're at in terms of blush shades. I think I have 2 more blush shades that are like more peachy coral. I have my Kosas Papaya Duo. I absolutely love and adore this. It's so old, but I love it so much, and I reach for it quite frequently every summer. So first we have the more like orangey side. Oops, sorry, I had nothing, that was not the right hand. We have the more orangey side, which gives this really beautiful coraled flush to the cheeks. And then we have, as you can tell, it's very powdery. And then we have the more like nudie side, which gives a really beautiful glow. You can layer these together. I really, really like this duo. I'm not getting rid of it. I'm not getting rid of it. And then I have Persona Georgia. I probably could have swatched these in like my nudie section, but they're more like coral. Oh, this is almost more of like a pinky. I'm definitely going to keep Persona Georgia, especially since I decluttered Bubble. I really like the Persona blush formula. I think it gives a really beautiful satin like sheen to the cheeks. And I actually do reach for Georgia quite a bit in the summer as well. So those two are staying. All right, then I have my Bare Minerals Bronzer in Kiss of Copper, which I don't think I'm gonna be able to part ways with because this is just like, this was like an OG staple favorite. Again, I love this one in the summer. It gives a really beautiful glow to the cheeks. I feel like if I decluttered that, I'd be decluttering just to declutter. Okay, where are we at? I'm just gonna swatch maybe what I have left. Okay, so I have my two Lawless blushes. I have this shade right here, which is an Indian Summer. And this is a pretty unique shade to my collection as well. Kind of that more like berry toned finish, and I don't have a ton of berry tones. I also have Berry Juicy from Huda. This is one of the glowish blushes. I'm gonna swatch the glowish blush. There's the glowish. I feel like those two are pretty similar. I almost feel like I should keep the glowish because I only have one in this formula where I have two in the Lawless, but I feel like this is such a dark blush shade. I just don't necessarily see myself reaching for something that dark. For some reason, the Lawless just feels more approachable. I do really like the Lawless blush formula. I think I actually am ready to let go of the Huda Glowish blush. So I think I'll declutter that. I am going to keep my Lawless Indian Summer blush. And then I also have the Lawless Angel Suede blush. This is what Angel Suede looks like. And I absolutely love the shade Angel Suede. It's not the best swatch. Let's try and get a better swatch. There we go. This I think is such a beautiful shade. It gives this really beautiful satin finish to the cheeks, but I love to layer Truth from Nabla over this. I think that makes such a pretty pairing. So I'm going to be keeping Angel Suede. Let me swatch out the other two. So I have the other two shades in the Cheek Trees from What's Up Beauty. I have the shade 3, Relaxed Roma. There's Relaxed Roma, and then I also have 4, Gentle Genova. There's Gentle Genova. So their third shade is Relaxed Roma. Ooh, that's pretty. And then I have Gentle Jeroma. Okay, Relaxed Roma is really pretty for like a mid-toned, like nudie sort of shade. I actually do really like Relaxed Roma. I'm gonna keep Relaxed Roma, but I think I can definitely let go of the shade Gentle Genova. I just feel like I have other things similar to this, maybe perhaps swatched out with some of my other like nudes. Like it kind of is reminding me of the Stars Aligned duo from Give Beauty, so I don't think I need to hang on to that. I'm like, dang, I can't speak. I'm gonna declutter that one. What is this Flower Nose one? This is in the shade Ballet Fairy, and it's from the Flower Nose collection, just like a simple pink. This one doesn't necessarily like excite me. There's that one. Yeah, just kind of like a basic pink. I feel like I definitely have this, maybe not even necessarily in my singles, but definitely in some of my face palettes, or I feel like I'd rather reach for like Hourglass Sublime Flush over this because this is a matte blush, whereas the Hourglass one is not. So I think I can let go of the Flower Nose blush. And then before I wipe my arm off, I do want to swatch the Nabla Independence blush again. This one, yeah, I do like having that. I'm curious, wait, how that swatches next to MAC Hushed Tone. Oh, those are different. Those are definitely different. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna keep both because again, I do really like a glowier blush. All right, that just brings me to my 4 remaining Kosas mini blushes. I actually think I have one repeat. Yes, I have 2 of the Blushes Life blushes in the shade Euphoria, which it looks like this is the one that I have already used, and then this one I have not. So I'll pass this one along to my daughter likely, but I am gonna keep Euphoria. I'll swatch it quick. There's Euphoria swatched out there, swatched right there. Just a nice light kind of nudie pink. And then I have these 2, which are both from the newest trio from the holidays. I have Spellbound and Dare. So Dare looks like that. Not nearly as scary as it is in the pan, swatched out on the arm. Again, not nearly as scary at all. And I am gonna keep all those. These 2 specifically, those shades are new to my collection, so I am gonna keep these 3. I really enjoy the Kosas blush formula, if you couldn't tell. Let me go count everything up and we'll see how we did. I'm scared. Okay, I promise I didn't plan this, you guys, but I did declutter a total of 14 blushes, and I actually have 38 blushes that I'm keeping, so I must have done the math wrong somewhere, but we're under 40 blushes, which is so exciting to be under 40 powder blushes. Yeehaw! And the other exciting news is that all of my blushes fit into my 2 containers that I have them housed in, and there's even like a little bit of room to spare, like a little bit. Okay, if you've made it till the end, like bravo. If you've skipped till the end, I'm cool with that too. But I'm gonna read notes off my phone so I can give you the final numbers for my entire makeup collection and declutter. I said at the very beginning of this that I wanted to declutter somewhere between 30 to 40% of my makeup collection, and I did hit that goal on the lower end of things. That's okay, we still hit the goal. So primer, kept 12, decluttered 3. Foundation, kept 19, decluttered 10. Concealer, kept 6, decluttered 2. I kept both of my color correctors. Powder, I kept 12, decluttered 8. Setting spray, kept 8, decluttered 2. Liquid blush, kept 8, decluttered 8. Cream blush, kept 20, decluttered 10. Powder blush, kept 38, decluttered 14. Highlighter, liquid highlight, kept 8, decluttered 4. Cream or balm highlights, I kept 6, decluttered 4. Powder highlights, I kept 22, decluttered 4. Cream and liquid bronzer, kept 11, decluttered 3. Powder bronzer, kept 10, decluttered 9. So in total, in today's video, we talked about 262 makeup products, which is absolute insanity. I kept 181 of those 262 and I decluttered 81, meaning that in today's mega cut, I decluttered exactly 30% of my collection. And if you include everything from my lip collection, I talked about a total of 506 products. Crazy. I kept 345, which feels really good, and I decluttered 161, meaning that in total I decluttered 31.8% of my makeup collection. So I did hit that in between 30 to 40%. Yes, we were on the lower end of things, but I'm also not the type of person that is going to just declutter things just to declutter. In many of the segments of this declutter, you saw that I do have a handful of products that I feel like I'm close to finishing, potentially even before the end of this year. So I do actually like use my makeup up to completion, and the majority, not all, but the majority of my makeup collection are all items that I've spent my own money on, and so I don't want that to go to waste. Again, all the products that I am decluttering, if they don't need to make their way to the trash because they're ancient, I do spread the love, share the love with my friends, family, and coworkers, which also makes me happy. But this is very eye-opening. It's making me want to do some sort of low buy, at least maybe the first half of next year. Definitely not a complete no buy. That's never gonna work for me, but maybe some category specific low buys. So keep your eye out for that. Thank you guys so much for all of your support on my declutter series. As always, I'd love to know in the comments below if you're planning to declutter anything before the end of the year. But that is going to wrap it up for today's video and for this series. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch. I love you, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.